Hey, what is going on, guys? Happy Sunday to you. Tonight is going to be a super fun night. We're going to be talking about Mwave. We've got talking about subwoofers, and we've got a brand new guest on the show tonight. We got Kyle Bliss from Life of Bliss. Kyle, what is happening, man?
Not too much. Just living life, man. Just
living
trying
the
to stay
dream.
busy.
Living the dream, drinking some prune juice.
Yeah, every day. Staying regular. What can I say, man?
Absolutely, man. Ryan, Jonathan, good to have you guys as well. And those of you in the chat, we're grateful that you're hanging out with us tonight. We're just going to have some fun, man. Last week, man, we went quite a ways. We went 3 hours on a podcast.
We'll probably do it again.
Jonathan was like, peace out at an hour. I'm gone. And so just to let you guys know, at any point in this conversation, if you're like, man, I got kids to take care of, I got a wife to love on, whatever, just do this number and we'll say, see you later. It won't be hurting my feelings at all. We're just grateful that you're here. And we're grateful that we're going to have some fun conversation tonight. So let me say hi to some folks in the chat. We got Blair. Good to see you. SRW, Brian. Good to see you, man. Danny and Robert, Chris updated. He added some new. Chris is all about the food in Kansas City. So he is our go-to dude on the Mwave website, MidwestAVExperience.com. If you're coming to Mwave, he's put together a list of all like local restaurants and what they're known for and what you'll enjoy. So if you go under, I think it's attend, and then there's an option that says dining. And so there's a list there. So we appreciate you, Chris, keeping that updates. Chris, you leading the night tours. You know he's definitely going to be doing that. So cool, man. Let me just say hi to some more folks. Michael's in the house. Bodie, good to see you. Jamie, Jayhawk, lots of folks in the chat. Zombie, good to see you. And man, right off the bat, Herbert with a super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Or super sticker. Appreciate your love and support of the channel. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it right now. So one thing that I would love to talk about is big subwoofers. And so I've always loved
big.
I started off in the home theater, but let's do this. Let's start off something kind of fun. What was your first subwoofer that you ever owned? Mine was a Velodyne CT100. This was back in the day when I used to work at Circuit City. And in the chat, let me know what subwoofer was your first subwoofer. So it was 100-inch. I'm sorry, not 100-inch. It was 100 watt.
Damn!
That was a big boy. It was a 10-inch 100-watt subwoofer. So definitely wasn't, super, super massive. It wasn't big. It didn't have a ton of output. But at the time, it was what I could afford. Plus, I got a 50% or 60% off discount working at Circuit City. So that definitely helped as well. See, some folks got Kicker. All right. So, Kyle, you're the guest tonight. What was your first subwoofer, man?
So, home theater or car?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go ahead and just stay home theater.
I'll tell both just real quick, just because.
Of course you will, because you're a rebel.
Yeah. So first car subwoofer was a JL. I think it was the original W3.
Oh, nice.
Like a 10-inch W3. I loved it. It was small potatoes compared to what people normally do, but yeah, it was good for what it was. But first home theater subwoofer was it was like a home theater in the box from Onkyo, like 10-inch ported sub, 7.1, came with the receiver and everything, and it did decent. And I think I threw together like a DIY Infinity Kappa 12-inch sub and threw it in there for a while. So that was like between those two, it's like I had the home theater and the box sub for a couple months, and I was like, I can do better than this. And I had another sub laying around, so I tried it, and that was the first one though. Come a long way since.
Heck yeah, man. So it's cool kind of thinking back. So for me, that would have been, oh gosh, that was like 25 years ago. Maybe, no, I bet it was, probably at least 25 years ago for me. So Jonathan, what was your first subwoofer?
I don't even remember the name of it.
I like how Jonathan says it. What did you have?
I had some sort of NH something like that. It was from a pawn shop. It was a little passive, like 6-inch subwoofer. Like you had to wire your speaker wires through it, and then it went out your speakers. And then I had a Iowa as my second, and then I really got into it heavy from there. But Iowa home theater and box. Car audio, Infinity Kappa Perfect, same as Kyle's talking there. Those were great. I had a 10-inch in my car. I started with two pile 12s that were junkers, but those quickly blew up, and I had to replace them with something better. So I went with Infinity.
What blew them up?
Me hooking them into my dad's Sears tower system, trying to figure out if I could get some bass in the house.
Nice. Danny had a Bose sub module. I'm glad you called it a module because it was never really subwoofer. It was more of a module.
It was like a mid bass unit.
Yeah. Oh, we had an Optimus sub. So mine in car audio was it was called a Cadence. I couldn't afford Kicker. That was the main brand, that and JL. But I'm like, man, I'm broke. I work at Ponderosa, and so I didn't have a whole lot of money. I had to pay for my own car, pay for my own gas, and pay for my own insurance. So by the end of the week, man, I didn't have a whole lot left. So
Nick's here.
Me getting is he really
in there
from SVS? Oh, okay. Very cool, man. Good to see you, brother. Let's see. Yeah, I was just talking with the other Nick yesterday, so why I brought that up. So we got more Bose. So Ryan, what did you rock your first subwoofer?
It was probably a Sony home theater in the box, 6-inch thing that you would always put way too far away from the TV, and it was way too far away from you, but you thought it was awesome because you didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And you probably actually couldn't tell it was on, but subjectivity really played into that one. You're like, oh man, this is incredible. And then you always had the wires hanging everywhere. Just fell into the college aesthetic. Just really did wonders. That was really it. And then other than that, it was probably like a used Bose of some sort that really wasn't a sub. It was a wannabe sub that tried really hard, but just couldn't do it. Had great aspirations and great marketing, but just didn't do it.
Too funny, man. Yes, I love looking at all the different subwoofers that you guys have had, Kenwood and all these other ones. Super fun, man.
Nick said he had 2 Serwin Vega 18s for his first subs.
Oh,
so he liked it big from the start.
Yeah, no kidding.
Where was that comment?
Compensator.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Holy
he must have
cow,
been a little
Nick.
older than us because we were starting with like our lunch money budget.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I didn't have any money for it. So, well, that's super cool to kind of get us started off on where we came from, because as I shared with the guys, I'd love to talk about subwoofers, and I'm really glad that Nick is here with Stereo Integrity because that's part of the conversation today. Stereo Integrity is going to be at Mwave. They're going to be bringing some big boys. Kyle, you've got some that you're going to be getting in to kind of play with and review and make some content on your channel.
Absolutely.
And then from GSG. So there's a bunch of big boy subwoofers in the market, and these are 2 of the lead players right here. So Nick, we're grateful that you're here tonight. So let's talk about that a little bit. My question really is, so I started off with a 10-inch. A lot of people start off with 10s or 12s. Maybe if you're lucky. I mean, it took me many years before I upgraded to a 15. And then it was a long time. We're talking a decade or so, even more than that, until I upgraded to 18s.
But I can't really fault you there because the larger subwoofers weren't really as prevalent
they didn't have
back then as they are now.
100%.
The fact that I'm saying back then really makes me feel old.
We're all
really makes me feel old.
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely those weren't really an option back then. And so that's really where I want this conversation to begin tonight before we answer your guys' questions. And while we're talking about this, feel free, if you've got questions regarding home theater, drop those in the chat. We'll be starring those as we go, and then we'll come back to those. Any super chats, we try to hit those first, but definitely those are not required by any means.
And guys, no, just because we don't answer your question immediately doesn't mean we're not going to.
Yep.
So don't feel like you have to post it 5 or 6 times. We star them and then we go through in the order they came in.
Yeah, 100%. So, and like I said, if a super chat comes in just as a way of me thanking you, then I always hit those first. But like I said, that's definitely not required. But so let's talk about big subwoofers, because literally over the past, I don't know what, the past at least 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe even longer, we begin to see more and more manufacturers in the home theater space, particularly, move up to 18s. And then not too long after that, we saw some 21s. We're like, 21? What the heck? And then they're making 24s. And I've seen some as large as 80 inches. Ascendo makes this big, massive 80-inch. So that's pretty crazy. We saw, I think, a 50-inch at Cedia from Ascendo. So let's talk about that. What are some of the benefits? Why would somebody, the comment that I hear sometimes is, man, I've got a 12-inch subwoofer and it rattles my dishes. Why would I need anything more? So what are some reasons? Why did you choose maybe in your home? Well, first, at least tell us what you have in your theater room, because we're all rocking at least 18s. And then kind of talk about, like, why did you get to that point? Why are you at that level of those size and that quantity? So let's go there. Who wants to start first?
Yeah, I'll start out. So, yeah, like you said, starting off smaller subs, I had the 10-inch for a while, and then moved up to 12 for a little bit, and then I did the Dayton Ultimax 15-inch and did that DIY for a while. And then after that, I was actually building out a room in Kentucky in our house, and I was planning on going with 418s, and we actually sold that place before we ever got to that point, and it just kind of kept going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. And so got looking at the 24s.
How that happens.
Yeah, you start reading things on the forums, and you're like, man, I wonder if I'm missing out,
Yeah. You start at like an 8-inch, and then you're like, oh, well, what if I go to a 12? And then what if I go to a 15? And what if I go to an 18? And then before you know it, you're at an 80-inch subwoofer, and you're like, I don't even know how I got here with second mortgage.
Yep. Your electric bill is, through the roof because you're playing it all the time. No, so yeah, I went from a 15-inch Ultimax to 3 HS24s from Nick. Mm-hmm. So I made a pretty big jump there. And
so 3 24-inch subwoofers, like, let that sit in. Those are massive, man. And you've got some videos on your channel on those.
Absolutely. Yeah. The whole build process, just kind of the unboxing, going over the sub itself. And then I built some boxes, which I'll try to figure out how to pull up some pictures here at some point in the chat or on the stream here. But had 2 of them up front, and the boxes held up my center channel, and then I had my towers on either side of those. So I had 2 of the 24s up on the front wall, another 24 kind of behind us off in the corner. It wasn't near field, but it was back there. And really, I would have probably bought 4, but 3 was all I could realistically fit in that room. So, because I bought a giant 4-channel amp, the Symbosin.
Slacker.
Yeah, I know. I could have made it happen, but realistically, it would have been a little difficult. But yeah, so had those rocking in our last place. I've currently, we've moved since I built all that stuff and had it set up on our last house. I've got 2 of them running right now as near field. So like literally 2 of them are sitting right behind my seat right here. One's just off to the left, one's off to the right. And the low end, the impact that you get from those larger drivers is like nothing else you're going to feel with a couple 12s or a couple 15s. I mean, you start getting into multiple 18s like Jonathan has, and I mean, his system rocks. I mean, that shakes your eyeballs. So he's got a legit system, and once you start getting up to the multiple 18s and the 24s, that's where you start feeling this impact and that ultra low bass that you just can't produce because you're not moving that air with 15s and 12s.
Nice.
All right, Jonathan, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is that it's about the displacement. And you get those big drivers, that big diameter, there's a lot more displacement that can happen with lower levels of excursion. And also your distortion's kept lower. And if you add multiples, that just kind of magnifies it. So, yeah, I mean, there is something to it. I mean, we've all started, a lot of us, sounds like in the chat, we started with 10s or less, and then you kind of work your way up. You go and you experience other systems, and you realize, man, wait a minute, I can't do that.
There's another world out there. Yeah.
Yeah, you climb the ladder. I mean, even I had a couple, and I've told you guys about this on the podcast before. I had a couple Infinity HPS 1000, which were fantastic subs from Infinity. They had 15 down firing and 2 passive radiators on the side, and I had 2 of them. And in our rental house at the time, in a college rental house, there was a pool that was attached to the back of the yard. And I'm not kidding, that those Infinity HPS could ripple the water in the pool, but they didn't dig as deep as some of the stuff we have today. Yeah. So I'll tell you something that kind of made my interest in this hobby really deep. I mean, I already had a pretty nice system at that point, but in 2011 timeframe, went over and visited a local guy on the forums because he was talking about how he loved his HSU so much. And that was eye-opening for me because those things were in a 15 hertz tune, and he played that Incredible Hulk, the 2008 Incredible Hulk. And when the Hulk is just stomping around and everything, and you get that 15 hertz, it was in a small home theater room, guttural. It was like, it was so impressive that I was calling all my buddies on the way home, on the drive home, be like, you gotta go over here and feel, this is amazing. I never felt anything like it. So that kind of opened up the door. And then over the course of the last 10 years since then, I experienced all these different systems with the really low frequency stuff that just, it's the stuff that makes you have an ear to ear grin that you just can't stop smiling.
Yeah.
And it's that displacement and it's the quantity.
Okay. Ryan.
Okay. So I went from a James loudspeaker 10 at that point to 2 Rel dual 12s. And then I made the mistake of going to Jonathan's house and realizing
that was part of mine too.
Realizing that
my 18th, I went to Jonathan's.
That my Rel 12s didn't do what his did. And then he was like,
and that they cost a whole lot of money.
But then he goes, oh, you should buy these. And me being the naive young man that I was at the time goes, oh, okay. And I didn't tell my wife. So all of a sudden,
recurring theme on this podcast.
It's a reoccurring theme with me. Yes. And then all of a sudden, 2 JTR 4000s show up that are the size of small refrigerators. So I now have 2 4000 ULFs and then 4 effectively RS1s and then a custom cabinet RS1 as a near field.
Yeah.
So 9 18-inch drivers in the theater.
You're not lacking.
No.
So why did you get to that point though? Like what are you searching for that you didn't get with smaller subwoofers?
I think something's wrong with me.
His inner ear is off and you just can't hear well.
Yeah.
Well, at the last get together, Jonathan looked at me and just went, "You're like Doug."
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, so Doug has what in his setup?
I love Doug.
That's 24 near field, I believe.
He has 24-inch near field,
24
off horns, and then he's got upstairs he's Gallahorns.
Correct.
And mounted in the ceiling. In the ceiling. And Doug runs probably like 30 dB hot, probably more than that. In his living room, when he turned the Gallahorns, it felt like the living room was breathing. Yeah. Like it felt like the floor was heaving and coming up and down with the pressure and dissipation. Like it was a vacuum. It was just getting sucked in and then pushed out, and then sucked in and then pushed out.
It's like you're standing on a boat dock in his living room.
Yeah. Yes, it was. But he's just sitting there with this huge grin on his face. I run. I don't know. I run my subs pretty hot. I mean, I'm at like 15 to 20 dB, probably. Jonathan can attest to that. He's seen the measurements.
A little higher.
Okay, maybe. But I just really like the low frequency and the more subs. I mean, when you start putting subs around the room, you're getting better frequency response without the need for huge amounts of EQ. Like each one of my subs only has 3 to 4 filters on it, and my frequency response is butter smooth. Yeah. So I don't more subs, less EQ, better frequency response, and an all around better experience. Because you know what's home theater without the brown note?
Exactly. So to me, subwoofers that's where a lot of the excitement comes, because you can get clarity and you can get detail, you can get good dialogue from your center channel, and that's all great. And
it's an majorly overlooked part of home theater and music.
Yeah. But the reality is, to me, the excitement comes when you are feeling King Kong in your living room, when you're feeling that explosion, you know, when you weren't expecting it, and it just all of a sudden it's impacting you physically and it's moving your pants legs or your chest or whatever. And so I started off with a 10-inch, and then later on I bought a used Velodyne 15-inch. It was an F1500, 15-inch, 250 watt amp. Then I upgraded to Velodyne HGS 15s, which had a 2250 continuous amplifier, I think 5,000 peak, another 15-inch, had a nicer finish, piano black, gloss finish. Like that so much. That was when we moved here into this house. I upgraded and bought a second one, so I had dual of those. Then I found a great deal, Youthman deal, on a Klipsch RSW 15 that had a 15-inch active in the rear and a 15-inch passive in the front. So I bought one, bought another, bought a third, bought a fourth. So I had 4 of those in between clipsless Scalas. Rocked that for probably like 7 years. And it wasn't until everybody just kept, oh, I'm sorry. So the next step was I reviewed some PB16s. There was other subwoofers in there that I reviewed, but I reviewed the PB16s and I'm like, holy cow, these 2 PB16s that just have technically dual 15s in them, outperform my 4 clip subwoofers. They dig a little bit deeper and have just as much output, and there's less of them. And so I ended up selling those, bought the PB16s, rocked those for a while. And then I made the mistake of everybody just kept telling me, man, if you like SVS, you got to check out JTR. And I'm like, who's JTR? Never heard of them. And so I looked up the company, reached out to Jeff, didn't hear from him, emailed him, messaged him, Instagram. I mean, like every platform possible. I reached out to him, didn't ever hear from him. And finally, he made a post on the Facebook, one of the Facebook groups, and he says, hey, we're bringing this to Axpona, or maybe they'd just finished up at Axpona. And he had this massive system. And I just commented, I said, hey, Jeff, those look awesome. I'd love to review them someday if you're interested. And he said, absolutely, reach out to me. So he sent me the RS2s, dual 18s, 4,000 watt continuous amplifier in each one. And I removed my PB16s, put those in there. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like you said, it was
the beginning of the end for Michael.
It literally was. It was transformative. And I'm like, this is a whole new level, because after using Mini DSP, we were able to, and Tony, if he's in the chat, SOWK, he helped me dial it in remotely because he's way better at that than I am. And he was able to get my subs flat down to 5 hertz in my room. And we're talking flats. I mean, we've got significant output at 5 hertz, and I just never experienced that. I couldn't go with ported because the 4,000 ULF is just too deep for my cabinet to go behind my screen. And
they're quite large.
But holy cow. It was, like I said, it's a different experience. And so those of you, if you haven't experienced,
it's a moist experience.
Here we go. So if you have not experienced big subwoofers, we're talking 18s, 21s, 24s, and you're like, man, I want to see what this is all about. Those of you that have VIP Gold, VIP Platinum, you're going to get that opportunity because we're taking you to 4 home theater tours in Kansas City that have some pretty incredible home theater subwoofer setups. But we're also going to have several demo rooms available for you to experience firsthand. And one of those, like I said, is Stereo Integrity, and they're in the chat right now. So Nick's got some really awesome subwoofers. And so Kyle, maybe let's lead into what are some of the things and some of the subwoofers, because I know you've been in communication with a couple of these brands, and you're going to be reviewing some of their bigger subwoofers on your channel. And maybe share with us a little bit about what you're going to be bringing, kind of on their behalf, but they're also going to be at the show as well.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, like I've talked to a lot of people whenever they've asked me about theater systems and kind of putting stuff together, and friends locally and things like that. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you got to go big on your subs, because you go to a movie theater and you have the whole experience, and you go home with a sound bar, and it's like, yeah, you can play things loud, or even if you have a nice surround sound system, you can play it loud. But if you don't have that bass and that rumble,
right,
it's not as immersive. You're just not gonna get the same effect as you are in a movie theater. So I always tell them, have a healthy budget for your subs, and try to go as big as you can, because that's, even if you have just mediocre speakers, you're going to get a much better experience if you have some big subs and some big sound from the low end.
All right, so I'm going to just throw this up there real quick. Tristan, you are not right, bro. I'm in the obituary columns looking for next subwoofers. That's hilarious. Sorry.
Wow.
I in there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Wow.
Tristan always brings.
That's how you get those youth man deals.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do,
man.
Gotta
so
do
those sweet old ladies.
I got something else I think we should talk about. What is the best story you have in regards to subwoofers in your home?
In my home? I don't know if I got any really. I mean, most people they've just never experienced that depth and that.
I know Jonathan has a couple.
I don't have anything like crazy. They just usually are grinning ear to ear, going, "Dude, I've never felt anything like that."
Let's talk about destruction, because I've seen that in a couple.
I haven't done that yet.
Let's talk about destruction and let's see what's come up. Mine is, I've played specifically what is it usually that happens? It's usually Dread that does it to me. The 2012, almost always when I play it, and I don't turn it up horrifically loud, but I always get the text message of turn it down. I'm in our daughter's room who's 2 floors up, and it's the whole house is vibrating. But there's been times where I've actually heard like kafunks and can lights have fallen out of rooms that are like 2 floors above me.
Hey,
and
you guys are
so not it's not awful, but it's a little bit of destruction. But I think I'm gonna put Jonathan on the spot because I think he's got one.
So Jonathan, you got some fun stories here?
My wife watches this. She's going to get mad at me all over again. So 2012, we had a subwoofer shootout, and Jeff from JTR Speakers brought 2 orbit shifters, which at the time were his highest output subs, and they're still meaty today.
Yes,
they are
140 dB capable, and he had a pair of them. And we had him, and at one point he got the volume control, and he put in Pearl Harbor, and he just. And
I do want to preface this that Jeff is the type of person that if you try his stuff, he's just like, well, try and break it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of let it go and see what happens.
He put those things on for everything they are worth. And it did a lot of damage in the house. It wrecked my projector. It wrecked my Epson projector. It was an 8350 at the time, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
My Blu-ray player, my HD DVD drive.
How did you break the Blu-ray player?
There was that much vibration.
Wow.
It knocked stuff off the shelves upstairs, of course. And the worst part of all of it was the kitchen tile. The kitchen was immediately above the home theater room.
Yeah.
And it had tile and it was so spinning floor. It literally broke all the grout between all the tile in the kitchen. So we come up after that demo from the Pearl Harbor demo. We're walking to the kitchen. It's like crunch, crunch with every step, crunch, crunch, crunch. It loosened all the tiles in the kitchen.
Nuts.
And so I'm like looking at the guys. I'm like, man, what am I going to do about this? Maybe
I like how you're saying, what do we do? Like it's their problem.
That's funny.
What are we?
They're like, we're going home.
I said, well, maybe she just won't notice. We'll just see if she doesn't notice. She was in Pennsylvania visiting family for the shootout for the
maybe
week.
my wife won't notice.
Just put a rug over the top.
Crunching as I walk through the kitchen.
She comes in, and I kid you not, it was within the first 2 steps that she walked in the kitchen, and she's like, "What's wrong with the floor?"
Wow. You're toast, bro.
Try. I can't. I'm trying to imagine like how that conversation even happens. Well, love, I broke the floor with my subwoofer. And try and think about how you would explain that to an insurance agent.
Yeah, it was a mess. It knocked out several light bulbs, just like you're talking. Not the cans, not that the things fell out, but they unscrewed. Like in the bathroom upstairs that was pretty close to the kitchen, light bulbs literally unscrewed from the sockets and fell on the floor.
Wow.
And then I mean, it wasn't safe, fellas. Don't do that because my ears had tinnitus bad for about a month and a half. I felt like I had like water in my ears for that.
Nobody's saying this was a
nobody
good
was
idea.
wearing nobody was wearing hearing protection.
Good idea.
We were just all grinning and our hair was shaking. The gel in your eyes felt like it was moving. It was incredible.
Wow.
I have never felt anything like that.
Yeah, the only time I've gotten that level was at Scott Newby's house. Like, I mean, it's insane. He's pushing close to 150 dB, which is, but I had earplugs in, and it's bad when you have earplugs in, and as he's cranking it, you cup your ears thinking these earplugs aren't going to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's another level. Probably, I did think of one story. I was reviewing the Dual 15 from Monolith, and I had cranked it up pretty loud, and it was sitting under my left surround speaker. I'm sorry, no, it was in front of that, but I had another speaker in a box that hadn't been unboxed yet, and it was sitting underneath it, fortunately. And that speaker during a big bass scene fell off my wall and landed on the other box speaker, which was good because it would have crashed to the floor and it would have been bad, but I'd have been real disappointed. But that was that was my fault. I had a drywall anchor holding that thing up, and it had been in there for like 10 years, you know. But I assumed, okay, this drywall anchor says it'll support 60 pounds. Speaker's only like 15 or 20, so we're good to go, right?
Right.
Wrong.
It starts vibrating.
Over time, it starts loosening up.
Working
so I put
its
a
way
big
out.
old, it's on an exterior wall, so I put a big old toggle bolt in there, so it ain't going anywhere. But
hey, so I got another confession about that subwoofer shootout.
Oh, no.
2012.
Does
I
your
don't know
wife
if
know
my
about
wife
this
knows
second
this
one?
one, so I'm probably.
Oh no!
But
I'm gonna send her a link to this
we gotta,
video.
we gotta.
Michael, be watching the obituaries.
I'm coming after your sub, brother.
We had a
That's
CRT
funny.
TV at the time, and it was 27 or 32 inches or something. And I had wanted to upgrade to an LCD TV. Right, this is 2012. LCD was the rage. And Megan was like, "You're not getting rid of this TV until it fails. There's nothing wrong with this TV." Oh no, we didn't do it intentionally. But people were walking by the TV with their giant subwoofers heading downstairs, carrying them downstairs. The TV was pretty much right by the entryway into the kitchen, and just walking by with those massive magnets made that TV come on like rainbows. You know, like it's.
I'm just imagining Jonathan telling everybody as they walk in, just go, "Hey guys, walk as close to the TV as you possibly can."
I didn't even really consider
just as close as you can get. Even touch it if you can with the magnet. Just drag it all the way across.
No, it was
then you're
totally
good.
Accidental, but it was all like crazy colors, and so it was ruined. So we got an LCD TV out of the deal, and a new projector, and new Blu-ray player, and a DVD player.
Jonathan's like,
upgrades. Just turn your subs up as wide as they can go. Destroy what you can.
You might get divorced, but you know you'll come out ahead at the other end.
Oh my goodness!
See, I've broken some picture frames. Like the one that really got me was we had one of our wedding. And it was in an all glass frame, and it was like in our bedroom that was, I don't know, probably 20 foot from being over the theater upstairs. And anyways, we came upstairs after watching something, after playing some stuff really loud, and it was laying on the ground broken. And I was like, oops, sorry.
Was the picture okay?
Oh yeah, the picture's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just the frame. But, yeah, I haven't really damaged anything besides that. I did have to put gasket tape in like 4 of my doors downstairs, like right where the hinge latches, because whenever you'd start playing under 20 hertz, all the doors would start flapping in the frame, and you'd hear that louder than you'd hear the speakers or the movie going on. So I had to put like thick gasket tape in there and prevent that from happening, but not too much damage, thankfully.
So I was at somebody's house. I was doing a home theater tour, and this guy had a full JTR system, big JTR subs. I think he had the 4000 ULFs, a couple of them. And we were in the middle of a demo, and we hear this, we're like, what was that? And so we turned the volume down, walk in the other room, and one of their, I don't know, I think it was like a vase of Ace had walked off the shelf and boom, hit the floor, just shattered. And I'm like going, oh man, this is crazy. And the wife goes, hey, I've got an old thing. Did you get that on video? And I'm like, no. She's like, do you want me to go get the I've got one, I'll put it up there. We'll do it again. I'm like, you're a strange wife. And so she literally goes and puts it up there. We crank it up. I film it. It's in the video. And this thing walks off and shatters on the ground. I'm like, golly, man. So crazy. So if you're looking to have big subwoofers, number one, definitely protect your hearing. I mean, you only get it once. Be careful. Those short bursts are fun. They're great demos, but you definitely really, really need to take care of your hearing. But the other thing is use that blue tack, staple stuff to the walls, super glue it down, because it's coming off. Something's gonna break eventually if you turn it up loud enough. That's crazy. So
screws instead of nails, my friends.
Yeah.
Screws instead of nails.
So back to Kyle. So let's talk a little bit about Mwave, for those of you, maybe you're just joining or maybe you haven't heard of it. It's an event that we're doing in Kansas City. It's our second year doing it. And so we will be in the Kansas City Convention Center this year. It's awesome, beautiful space, massive room. We got big rooms. There's about 14 of them that are available. And we got different vendors that are going to be in those, setting up their products, giving you those experiences. And so the dates are July 14th through the 16th. And you can get all the details and tickets at midwestavexperience.com. But Kyle, you're going to get some of these subwoofers kind of in advance to play with. You've already got 3 24-inch subwoofers in your setup, but share if you can, because I know some of it you might not be able to share, because it could be some new products. But
yeah,
share what you can.
Them and yeah,
they're
I think
good.
that should be good. So
awesome. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put the big screen. Go ahead.
Yeah, so been talking with Nick at Stereo Integrity quite a bit, and we're going to. I was planning on definitely bringing the 2 that I had and see if we needed the 3rd one. And so no matter what, we're having 2 24s there. And we got to talking, and he was like, well, hey, why don't we switch those out with the carbon 24s? So the full carbon fiber 24s. I don't have those. I just have the standard cone 24s. So kind of started off with that, and then started talking a little bit more, and he's going to be offering a fully finished cabinet for his 24s, loaded up, ready to go, ship to your house. All you got to do is plug it in, and you're ready to, you're ready to start breaking stuff. Essentially,
is that a passive subwoofer?
It is.
So
passive.
you need to provide your own amplifier for it.
Yes,
external amplifier. Okay.
And I don't know that he'll be offering. He can.
Yeah, Nick, let us know.
There, let us know if he'll offer any sort of
yeah, let us know in the chat, Nick,
amps.
if you've got amplifiers that you're going to put with those, or if this is just going to be a passive subwoofer for folks.
So yeah, we started talking. Essentially, what we have going to Mwave that I know for sure, 2 of those, because we might end up bringing more. Who knows? Right. We've definitely got 2 of his fully finished 24s that he's going to have finished at the shop there, sent out, full carbon fiber. Nice. So those are definitely going to be coming. I'm going to be, doing some content on those. And then I might as well, I was planning on bringing my other 2 24s. So we might as well throw 4 of them in the room there.
Yeah.
And just really rock the place. So that's what I'm planning on.
Okay.
As long as we have the power to do it, then might as well, right?
Absolutely, man.
And I know he spoke to me earlier. He's going to be offering flat packs as well, instead of having them fully finished.
Okay.
And so he was mentioning to me that if people wanted to buy the 24s and the flat packs at the same time, shipping is going to be overall, the package is going to be cheaper because he can save on shipping by palletizing everything and getting it to him like that. So whenever he starts selling those, if you guys check into it and ask him about it, I'm sure I'll have pricing on the website there, obviously. But yeah, he's going to start doing those flat packs and fully finished cabinets coming soon. So yeah, get a sneak peek of them here soon, hopefully.
So for those of you that don't know what a flat pack is, kind of walk us through that. What does that even look like? Who's that designed for?
Yeah, so a couple different companies do them. DIY Sound Group, GSG, Nick starting to do them. There's a lot of companies out there that will essentially have a design for either a subwoofer or a speaker. And instead of you getting the components and then you yourself buying and cutting all the wood and putting it together,
they have all the tools.
Exactly. Yeah. Table saw, most likely, or you could use a circular saw, but it's easier with table saw. Compressor, nail gun, router, all that stuff to, give it a nice finish. You don't need all of that. All you do is get the pieces that they normally CNC cut out of MDF or whatever product that they're using, material that they're using. They ship all of the cutouts to you. And like GSG, for example, I don't know what nicks are going to look like, but a lot of people are familiar with GSG.
Right.
They have CNC cutout numbers like on the panels themselves. They'll say like 1, 2, 3, all the way up to like 10, 20, whatever, however many panels it takes to build it. You have instructions how to put it together, and really, you don't even have to nail these together because once you start using sufficient wood glue, that glue is actually stronger than nails. So you don't even need a nail gun and a compressor to do these. You do need clamps, but you just start following the directions and piecing together board by board the box, and it includes all the bracing, everything, all the cutouts are there. So you need glue, you need clamps, and you put these suckers together and drop your speakers in. You can paint them how you want. You can veneer it. You can, do Raptor lining, truck bed lining, do whatever you want to finish it. And that's what I like doing, finishing my own products or speakers and putting whatever finishes I want and how I want them to look. But it gives you that flexibility to, not have to be so deep into the tool side of DIY, but still put something together, save a little bit of money, and get a really good product at the end and finish it how you want. So flat packs are pretty cool. I really liked how GSG did everything when I saw they came out a few years ago, just numbering all the panels and really great directions on how to put everything together. I think all their edges are rabbited, meaning they just
kind of snap together and dummy proof.
Yeah, dummy proof. They've got like a little shelf where the top will sit in a little shelf that's rabbited out of the sides, and everything just fits together real nice. So I think it's great for the community and really allows people to get something that maybe they wouldn't be able to looking at JTR or some of these larger subs and spending that sort of money and getting into it at a cheaper cost. You just got to put some time and effort into it. So
yeah, for sure. Super cool, man. So Nick gave us a couple extra tidbits here. He says, yes, at Mwave there will be multiple of our HS24s and all will be the carbon fiber. So that's super cool here.
Nice.
And he says, even if Kyle brings 4 of them, they'll be CF. What is that?
Carbon fiber.
Okay.
So
very cool, man.
I know of 2 carbon fibers, so he may be bringing some others, or we may have to have another conversation. We'll see.
Sure. So one thing I'll show you, like I said, if you go to the website, we've got tickets still available. We sold out of all the VIP experience, all the VIP gold and VIP platinum, but we have plenty of general admission, and you're going to get a chance to experience all of these. That didn't even pull. Oh yeah, it did. Okay. I was on another screen. But you'll get a chance to demo these in the different rooms. So definitely at least give us a consideration. I'd love to have you join us for that. It's going to be an incredible weekend. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so we're grateful that Nick and his team are going to be there showcasing some big, massive subwoofers, man, some 24-inch. So if you've never experienced it, definitely is one of those game changer experiences for sure. So we've got all the information. If you go up to the website and go under brands, and then if you go to the Stereo Integrity page, so I want to share this with you. This is pretty cool. So Nick just put out this video. Go check that out. I think it'll.
Good morning, everyone. Here we have the first 24 built on our.
Can y'all hear that or see it?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear it.
One motor platform.
Yeah, that's his new motor that he's starting to put in all of his 24s there.
Here she is.
That thing is a beast.
And we went ahead and built this one.
And they look so good, all carbon fiber.
That is sexy as anything, dude. That motor structure is wild.
It's insane.
Apparently my internet can't buffer and stream and have 30 tabs open. So, but look at the excursion. Nick, let us know in the chat what you shared with me the amount of excursion.
I think it's 40 millimeter one way or 38 millimeter one way. But dude, I'm telling you what.
Listen to that.
Even free air. I've played subs free air, doing DIY stuff. You have the speakers out. I've played 10s and 12s, whatever, just seeing them move.
Yep.
That right there, when it's moving.
But that is his whole building shaking, not the subwoofer, bottoming it out or anything.
It was pressurizing the room without a box. Yeah. Whenever I was throwing, it wasn't even a 1,000-watt amp that I had on it, just because it was free air. It didn't need a lot of power, but you could start feeling the room kind of start to pressurize and hear some SPL without a box. It's just, it's incredible how much air those things can actually move.
Right. He says 39 millimeters. Now, what is that in inches? 39 millimeters. 39 millimeters.
Weak sauce, Nick. I'm just kidding.
We're talking an inch and a half of excursion each way. So we're talking 3 inches of excursion.
Please don't let one of your subwoofers punch me in the face. It would probably hurt quite a bit.
That's crazy. So he said it's hard to hold during that, that demo. Absolutely.
For sure.
Man, that's awesome. So that's going to be, might want to check your math there, man. Google was saying 1.5 inches. So see?
Oh, that's only 25. He's saying
that's just all of the people that have short somethings, and Google's trying to make them feel better.
It's compensating.
That's all it's doing.
But that's awesome, man. So we're excited about that. I'm grateful that we're going to have just some, again, one of the goals of Mwave is to provide experiences that most people don't have the opportunity to do that. Where can you go to experience 4 24-inch subwoofers in a room? in a theater environment. And so we're going to have so much fun with that. So we're grateful for Nick. Like I said, check out their website, Stereo Integrity. GSG is another one that's going to be there. They're going to be bringing some stuff. And I think you've got some information on that as well, right?
Yeah, I do. And actually, I was going to pull up, I think I can screen share.
Yep. Go down to Present tab.
Present, share screen.
We'll put it up on screen here.
Wow.
Here we go.
All right. So can you see that?
Yep. So that's your living room. Or
so yeah, that was the build that I did. His 24-inch subs there, obviously. I was going to say for his room, what we're planning on doing right now is the speakers, the tower speakers are the DIY Sound Group 1299s.
Okay.
Those should be in his room. As of right now, that's kind of what the plan is. So that's just to say, for this experience, you're going to be not only hearing some subs that are more towards the DIY realm, but also some tower speakers that are DIY and what you can do with DIY speakers. It's not just low bookshelf speakers or smaller stuff. I mean, you can get into some really high performance DIY type setups, and really compete with some much more expensive speakers than what the DIY speakers cost themselves. So yeah, we're planning right now having the 1299s in his room there, along with 2 to 4 24s. So
nice.
Should be pretty awesome.
That's gonna be a fun room to demo. So super
cool. Also, I should share my screen again.
Was this your show or what, man?
Yeah. Let's see, present. Let me make sure I'm getting these pictures right. So I've been speaking with GSG as well, and trying to get some. Let's see. Woo. All right. So GSG is going to be sending some flat packs, and I'm going to be doing some content with as well. That there is a dual 21-inch enclosure, tuned to 13 hertz, and it's got the 21-inch Eminence drivers, Pro Audio drivers in that one. And that thing, he told me it's like over 400 pounds all loaded up.
Wow.
Like that thing is a monster.
That's crazy.
Trying to get a sense of size on that thing.
Right,
it looks like it could be 16 feet tall in that first.
There you go. There, yeah.
So in the middle is probably a 24, right?
So in the middle is Nick's 24. They've started doing a flat pack for the 24s as well.
Nice.
So they're going to start offering that.
You mean Kevin's 24?
Nick's 24.
So Nick.
Oh,
so yeah,
Nick's driver. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Nick's driver, stereo integrator driver, and they
GSG
are
flat pack.
making both a flat pack, and they're starting. These are their finished cabinets, so they're going to begin to start offering that as well. I think fairly soon.
Right.
But yeah, off to the right there's a dual 21s, and then to the left I should be getting a flat pack for the dual 18s as well, and those are their prototype drivers in there right now, I believe.
So that may change.
Yes. So they're working on an 18-inch driver, and he was telling me they're kind of going back and forth on some things and trying to essentially beef it up and make it a little bigger, and making the motor bigger and the surround bigger, and everything bigger and louder. So they're working on that, but the plan is to go ahead and get the dual 18 knockdown enclosure, put it together, and as long as the drivers come in and are finished by Mwave, I'll have the enclosure done, and all he's got to do is send the drivers out, and we can load them up and have that at Mwave as well. So
nice.
Yeah, we're planning on definitely the dual 21s, and possibly most likely the dual 18 enclosure from GSG to be able to experience as well there. So we should be bringing some big toys.
Yeah, for sure. So question from High Modulus says, is that that 24-inch cabinet, is it curved? It almost looks like it's
I think
baffled,
it's just how
like
it's
angled.
mitered. It's just how it's mitered.
But it's angled though, right? Yeah, so
it is. There you go.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's a pretty cool, like totally different geometry that you would expect from a subwoofer.
Yeah, they he said it took some time getting all those measurements out and getting everything right on the CNC, because that front baffle is, I think that's 3 3/4 inch pieces of wood thick.
Yeah.
So you're looking at what, 2 and 2¼ inches. And there might even be a 4th one under it that maybe not, maybe it's only 3. But anyways, yeah, they had to calculate all that out and get it to work on the CNC once they started stacking it to get that nice smooth curve there. But he said in person it looks even better. It turned out awesome, I think, in pictures. So yeah, maybe hopefully we can get one of those, the knockdown boxes there at Mwave as well, and be able to see it. So gonna be some cool stuff.
So a couple things, because I know some of you guys in the chat are going to want to know, do you know any pricing or even approximate pricing on any of that? Has he shared that with you?
I have no idea on the drivers. And actually, I think all of the enclosures are on his website.
Okay.
Like they're ready to go on his website. It's just the drivers that I think he's working on now. They're prototyping and trying to figure out exactly what they want. So yeah, the knockdown enclosures, they're ready to go. Actually, I think there's been a couple of the dual 21s have popped up on Facebook. I think Mark Dahlquist, or I believe that's his last name. He's real big on one of the forums. He's done some testing with it, and so they're out there.
So their website's a little bit. So what am I looking for on the website? Actually, let me share my screen, or if you want to pull it up, either way, if you know where to find it. Since you're hogging up the podcast anyway.
Sure.
Go to GSG's website. So under products, did you say they were on his website?
Yeah, I think it's the Evolution series. Here we go.
So if you guys are looking to build something like this, this is what you're kind of looking at. You'd finish it on your own, whatever you want to, Duratex or paint or veneer, or if you're really handy on that. So there's a couple of different designs. So it's hard for me to see that small on my screen.
Dual 21 is $1,200 plus $200 shipping. So $1,400 for the enclosure.
Without the drivers, correct?
Correct. So that's just the enclosure. And then you got to buy the drivers. But you got to keep in mind you don't have to have all the table saw and the router and anything like that.
And typically, if you buy more than one flat pack, that shipping starts to deteriorate.
Yeah, that
makes sense. It's not $200 per. It's really just how much can I fit on a pallet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. He was telling me if you start ordering multiples, then you'll start saving money that way. So
sure.
But yeah, it's kind of the pricing. What, $975 for the dual 18. The 24 is $975, and the 21 single is $750.
Nice. So definitely just some. And the good thing is, I love the fact that we as consumers have so many options now. You can buy fully built subwoofers, to meet your size, room, spec, output, low end extension. But then you've got companies like GSG Audio, Stereo Integrity that say, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to provide some flat packs for you. We're going to provide these amazing, subwoofers and drivers. And one thing I didn't know about Stereo Integrity until I did a home theater tour up in Jacksonville is Nick actually has car audio stuff too. So
he's got one of those in his car.
Yeah, that was just insane. Check out that video. Imagine having that at a Stealth too. It's in an Audi. So that's a beautiful, beautiful setup.
And I was gonna see if Nick had his flat packs on there. I didn't think he did, but
Nick, get on it, man. Check. We wanna see. We're trying to give you some free promo here.
Heck yeah, man. And he was telling me too, the 24s aren't available to order right now. He's catching up on some orders, but he said within about a week or the 1st of March, he said he's hoping to have them back up on there. So yeah, he's knocking those 24s out. People are buying them.
Yeah.
People like them, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Randy said that he's got 2 of the 21 BTS GSG subs as well. Should be great when the room is done. So fantastic. Excited for you, man. And then Chris says Polk needs to make better stuff. subs. I don't think Polk's ever going to get into the dual 18s. I think you might be waiting a long time there, Chris.
You know, there's talk about one of the companies that I represent getting into the larger sub realm.
Nice.
I won't say who.
Yeah.
But there is talk about someone creating a larger sub.
So you could go to sendav.net and look at what brands he represents
and kind of guess.
Might be able to figure it
out.
That's hilarious, man.
Hey, Kyle, so are those 18s that were on the, on the left side of your picture, are those similar to those LMS 5400? Do they have aluminum cone on them?
Yes, and I was getting ready to pull up the text that Kevin sent me.
Chris, he's so bad.
TC Sounds LMS 5400. He said they're somewhat similar to them since they were longtime fans. And
are they working with Theo to build it, or are they kind of cloning that work, or what's the backstory? Do you know?
That I don't know. Yeah, he was just telling me, that they were going through the process of trying to get what they want out of it, and that they kind of modeled it after that specific driver because they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one of the best 18s of all time.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. It was one of the best made. So yeah, that's kind of what they're modeling it after. So that's his plan.
Very cool.
And Nick, you have nothing to worry about. Nothing's going to compete with any of your stuff. It's just kind of more manufacturers are starting to understand the benefit of larger drivers and more surface area, but stereo integrity is not going to be threatened at all.
I heard it was Sunfire.
Now.
I heard it was Sunfire that's going to 24-inch.
I thought it. I read on Reddit it was Bose, but it was on Reddit.
There was that thing coming from Klipsch though.
Yeah,
Klipsch announcement tomorrow.
The Beast or whatever, the 15-inch,
or not tomorrow on the 1st.
I'm not sure why they're calling a 15-inch the Beast.
Yeah,
they're about a decade late on that.
Yeah, I honestly, all right. I've asked Klipsch probably many times, like, hey, is there any update, anything I can share on my end? Even if you can tell me, and I promise I won't share. I'll sign an NDA. I don't care. I just want to know, because about a year ago we did have an interview with Jill from Jill Eskel from Klipsch, and she mentioned this thing called the Beast, and it was going to be the SVS killer. So that's kind of that's who they're going after. They're not going after stereo integrity. They're not going after JTR, GSG, and those of the likes. But so they were coming out with a big bad boy subwoofer as well, because Klipsch, for the most part, they aren't known for subwoofers. I mean, let's just face it. They do much better with their speakers. But Tristan says you can't call a 15-inch a beast. But they did show on their website that there's something coming, some big news. So that'll be happening. I've actually got a meeting with them on Monday, so I can't disclose any information regarding that, but I'll get some more information as soon as I guess I already have the date that I can share that, but it'll be sometime later on this week that I'll be able to share some details on that. But you probably can Google it and find some of the information out there. I know I've seen some of it floating around in other countries. Joke on the Sunfire. That's awesome. Yeah, those are cute subwoofers. So, but definitely, man. So I love this. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the questions, unless you guys have any other comments on Mwave, subwoofers, big subwoofers, and the likes.
I'm just excited for Mwave, man. There's going to be so many large format woofers that, like I said, if people haven't experienced it, they just don't know.
Kyle likes big things, and he's very excited.
I like very big things. I like over the top things.
Yeah.
And so,
speaking of you're the guy that takes a forklift and loads a daggone 24 in the back of his Suburban. So
it was a skid steer,
front end loader.
Whatever. Yeah. That's the only way to get it in there. But that was fun for a couple days, and then it was rolling all over the back because I didn't strap down in any way. So
terrible, man.
Did you ever hook it up in your car? Like, was it actively working, or was it just for fun?
I mean, it wasn't hooked up to the car stereo, but just because I didn't have anything set up like that in there. But I just brought a receiver and an amplifier and ran an extension cord through the window. And just played the bass. I didn't even have mids or highs or anything. I just wanted to see how loud it would get in the vehicle. And I mean,
crazy,
the bass
dude.
I had was way underpowering it. I think it was only what was it, 1,000-watt amp? That was maybe at a Crown XLS 1000. And I mean, it was shaking the door in the frames a little bit. I mean, it was plenty for inside of a vehicle. It was enough that if you're listening to it for an extended period of time, you'd start getting kind of a headache. In my opinion, anyways. But yeah, it was fun.
Super cool. Good to see Evan in the chat. So he's with Seymour AV. They're going to be there representing big again. Yeah. They were huge supporters last year of Mwave, and they really believe in what we're trying to accomplish with, events such as this. We don't want to recreate a trade show. We want to create experiences that you're going to walk away, and these are going to be memorable experiences, things that you go, dang, that was so cool. I'd never experienced this or that before, and I'm coming back again next year.
Evan and Chris almost imparted a divorce on me and my family. But,
bringing that new screen in during Mwave. That's awesome, man. All right. Well, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. Jonathan, like I mentioned to you earlier, and Kyle, anytime you need to bail, go ahead and just give a little peace out, and y'all can slide on out. But you're welcome to hang out with us as long as you want. But drop those questions in the chat. We're going to be going through the ones from way earlier in the show, and we'll just hit as many as we can for as long as we can. So here we go. All right, let's go back to, so we got a bunch of them. All right. So James says, can I get some clarity on whether or not video processors like
Mwave?
Mwave and Radeon effectively can replace an anamorphic lens using a 2.35 to 1 screen? Seems to be a little shroud of mystery on this topic. You guys know anything about that?
Video processors can't replace anamorphic lenses because they can't fix your physics problem, which is redirecting the light onto the screen. They can fix the problem, some can at least, in being able to move the content onto the screen without the need for zoom and lens shift, but you can't fix physics in software. It doesn't work.
You might explain a little bit more what you mean, Ryan, because I know what you're saying, but it's not maybe clear to people.
So take MadVR NV as an example. One of the benefits that it has is what's called constant fit aspect ratio management. And what it does is you tell NV what the size of the screen is. You give it anchor points, so it knows where the constraints of the screen are, and then no matter what content you put on it, it will fit it in that space. So by default, it doesn't stretch it, it doesn't manipulate it, it just makes it fit. If you don't have that, and let's say you have a CinemaScope screen, if you're on anything but a Barco CS, you're going to have overscan on the top and bottom of the screen. Now, you can use blanking to be able to get rid of that, or you can rezoom to be able to fix that. But it becomes an issue of not being able to see the full content on the screen, or you're going to have massive black bars in left and right. So NV is able to do that in real time and be able, regardless of the aspect ratio changes, and make it fit, even intermovie. So again, things like NV and other video processors can't fix the physics problem, which is what an anamorphic lens is. An anamorphic lens is going to redirect the light from, say, a 16:9 paneled projector so that all of that light fits onto a CinemaScope screen of 235 or 240 or whatever you're trying to do. So you get more light, thereby making the image brighter. If you don't do that, you're wasting light in the overscan portion of the screen, and your overall image will be dimmer. So video processor can't fix that. You need a lens or some other type of prism to be able to make that happen.
Kyle, man, I was hoping you would explain that, but I think Ryan covered it, bro.
He took the words right out of my mouth, really. I was just every time I was going to bring something up, he hit
it, man. Dude, that's awesome, man. I love you guys. You guys are a wealth of knowledge, man. Great question, James. Ryan says my first sub was a PB2000 Pro that I wanted. Mwave, awesome, man. That is super cool. He's loving that, and so we're grateful that you were able to rock out with some great. Oh, it's funny because in Kyle's last video, you won, the glasses from Seymour.
Oh, yeah.
It was featured in your lightings. I thought that was super cool, man. So
Dude, Evan put those together from Seymour, and that whole little bar set thing, that was pretty sick.
That was awesome, man. But yeah, that video was fantastic.
Evan was very excited about that.
Yeah, dude, he was. He put a lot of work into
pretty
him.
Cool.
Well, funny thing is, Evan told me. So those of you who don't know, Evan with Seymour He wanted to do something really creative, and so he made Kyle some custom bar glasses, or not made you, but you ended up winning those. But
no, he made them for Kyle.
He's like, let's rig it so he can get them. But it was cool, man, because they're able to do some custom things for some certain people, and so
I still owe you $20, Michael, for calling my name on that. Thank you.
I did, man. I was like, no, not him, not Ryan, definitely not Jonathan. Okay, Kyle, we got a winner. That was awesome, man. Very cool. Good to see you here. We already got that. Tristan, what does he say? What is the sweet spot for subwoofer size? Interesting.
I want to know what all four of us say.
Okay.
So let's say it at the same time on the count of 3, because I want to know what we all think.
Of course, yeah. All right.
There's a lot of caveats here.
I think we're all going to say the same thing.
I think so too.
I think we'll all say the same thing.
All right, so we'll do 3, 2, 1, and then we'll say it.
Yeah.
On 0, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1.
18. Okay.
Yeah. I thought it'd all be the same.
Yeah,
18s.
I think it's a pretty. I mean, you get a ton of depth, you get a ton of output.
But go with 24s if you can.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean,
room.
All right, so here's a prime example. I went to do a home theater tour down kind of southwest side of Florida, very large room, big room, and the gentleman told me I've got stereo integrity 24s, and there's 4 of them in the room, but this is a big stinking room, and I'm thinking. I didn't know, because this is the biggest room I had ever been in, and he's got really, really tall ceilings. There's 12 theater seats in the room. I mean, full-fledged theater seats. So I'm like, man, that's a lot of volume to fill. And he cranks it up, and I asked him later on, I was like, do you have any like bass shakers, butt kickers, anything? He said, nope, just my 24s. Okay, so big drivers, like Jonathan was saying, displacement really matters. If you're wanting to feel the bass in your body, in your chest, and really move that air, it's really difficult to do that with really small drivers, even 10s, 12s, and even 15s, unless your room's really small and you've got multiple of those.
Well, I think people underestimate how much larger an 18-inch or a 24-inch, even like a 24 is than even a 10 or a 12. I mean, it's significant.
I think the surface area is about 2.5 times what an 18 is.
A 21 to a 18 or a 24?
18 to a 24. It's about 2.5.
2.5.
And that's not talking about even displacement.
Sure. That's just surface area of the driver itself.
So, yeah, it's pretty significant.
You do start ramping up the cost, though, quite a bit when you start going up that high, though.
Sure.
Which is why I say 18s are kind of your...
Yeah.
You can fit them in a lot more spaces.
Yeah. 24s are really, really big.
And they're really, really fun.
Well, and something else that comes up is I don't even think that any of us are pushing our subs to the limit.
No. And that's
not even close.
So that was one thing we didn't talk. We kind of mentioned it earlier, but when you have larger drivers and bigger amplifiers in these, powering these subwoofers, you're not having to crank them up. It's kind of Kyle's a big dude, man, and he bench presses and squats way more than I do.
He benches and squats those 24s in his shop.
So, think about this, like in that respect, I can pick up, let's say I can bench press 225 pounds. Okay. I can do that several times. Kyle that's like his warm up, you know what I mean? And so when you're looking at large, he's like, not really. Go with me, man. This is my little illustration here.
Yes, that is my warm up.
Yeah. So the reality is when you're able to have more what we call headroom in the subwoofer world, it's going to run cooler, it's going to run cleaner, less distortion, but you're still going to get that output. It's just so much easier to do than a smaller guy or a smaller subwoofer at max output kind of thing.
Or like a car or motorcycle, talking about going 100 mile an hour.
Yes.
Kia Sportage from 2003.
Right.
It's going to struggle to make past 90. Might get to 100.
Yeah.
But
but it's giving it everything it can to get to that point.
But you get some high end sports car or supercar. It's going to do 100 mile an hour on sleep.
Absolutely.
It's going to do it easily, and it's going to it's going to be fun doing it too. So yeah they they're just able to get. Yeah, right. They're able to get you that SPL that you need for not only just casual listening, but really reference levels. When we start adding multiple drivers, they're able to do it easier and not work as hard. They're not getting to the limits of the driver, so it's going to be a cleaner, tighter sound too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. Super cool. Mid-bass, appreciate the $1 super sticker. Matt says 225-pound warm-ups. Absolutely. So Matt's a good friend of mine. He's local here, and he's got a channel on guitar. So if you guys are interested in guitar, little shout out for his channel, Matt Cipriano. He's a solid dude, man. Matt, well, he got some big old guns too, man. So we need to get together. Bob has a question. I'm going to go ahead and throw this one up real quick. He says, with all the big boy toys that you're having at Mwave, definitely going to make it. So I appreciate that. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. Feels like big boy Disneyland. What will the hours be? And thanks for a great show. So for the most part, we haven't 100% solidified like what time we're starting on Friday night, but it'll basically run Friday night, all day Saturday, and pretty much all day Sunday. So that's kind of last year we started at, I think it was 6 p.m. So it'll be like 6 p.m., go to about say 9-ish on Friday night. And then we'll pretty much be all day Saturday, all day Sunday. If you're a VIP Platinum or VIP Gold, we've got an extra, some home theater tours on, is that Thursday, Ryan, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
The tours, yeah. So on Thursday is when we got those scheduled. So
unfortunately, you guys are going to be stuck with just Michael because I'm going to be helping everybody get set up until mine on that night.
Well, the great thing last year it was tough, man. It was our first year. We didn't have a day extra to set up, so we were setting up Friday.
We're going to have 2 days extra to set up this year.
It was nuts. We had Friday morning to set up, and then we started the show at Friday night. And
that was dumb.
So we learned from that.
That was dumb.
That was something that we're like, okay, we definitely have to make sure that the new venue that we get has.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah,
that was a bad idea. So now we went from 1 day to some of the rooms are going to have 3 days.
Yeah. So that's super good. So, and some of these are going to need it. You know, like I mentioned to you, I think the last stream is JTR. They're pretty close. I'm pretty sure that they're going to be coming. And if they do, he's going to be bringing more than likely an entire JTR Dolby Atmos setup. And he's got a truss system that has to be built in that room. And he said it'll take them 2 full days, 2 8-hour days with probably 4 or 5 guys working on it to make that happen. So being able to have several days for vendors to set up and for us to set up is absolutely huge. Oh, he's got a question for you. Evan says, are we installing a new screen this year, Ryan?
We can always do a new screen.
Depends on what we're talking about there, man. And I think you guys will have some conversation regarding that. That's awesome, man. All right.
He really wants me to get divorced.
Yeah. Hey, if they're willing to hook you up for free, hey, I don't think she'd mind that at all, right?
It is a demo room, right?
I still get the eye roll.
Really?
Yes.
That's funny.
Oh, when I started telling my wife about all this stuff that we're trying to get together for Mwave and the new videos I'm going to try to be making stuff and or will be making, she was just like, "What are you going to do with all this stuff?" And I was like,
use it, obviously.
Yeah, I'll find a spot for it. I mean,
yeah, this is obviously the best way to go about this.
Right.
After Mwave, this is going to be bass central down here. It's going to be a demo room for bass.
So, Des, Natalie, I'm talking to you. Mid bass wants to come. Let him come. He really wants to. Is that what he wanted?
Need to come.
That's right. And
Natalie,
ladies can come too. We got some
does.
spouses that are coming this year, so that was awesome. We had some last year.
Mid bass needs to hear the low bass.
He does, absolutely. Bob, appreciate the $4 super sticker, man. Appreciate the love and support.
Hey, Bob had a question a minute ago. We didn't answer it.
Okay.
Let's cycle back to that.
Oh, yeah.
Did we start it?
Could you mix 24-inch with 10-inch subs and have both? No, that's not. Sorry.
It. Let me undo that one.
It was this one. I'll push show.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Could you mix 24 and say 10-inch to have speed and SPL? Great question, Bob.
Who wants to take that one?
I have an answer for that one.
Get it.
So the answer is no. You don't want to do that unless you're using like the 10 as a near field or something. And the reason is because the 10 will become a liability to that 24. Your 24 is going to have so much more output, and that 10-inch is just going to be struggling to do anything, especially if it's far field. Like if you put a 24 in the front of the room and a 10 in the back or something, it's just not going to work very well. I have some real world experience with that. A local member had 18s and 10s.
Okay.
And the 10s just struggle to keep up, you know? So if you play them, if you limit them to the point where they're not going to exceed excursion or make bad noises, then they're not really even contributing much at that point. It's too much for the room. And there's a misnomer in this question to begin with. It's kind of a false question. There's no such thing as a fast 10 and a slow 24. Hertz is how subwoofers work. So if your subwoofer is doing 10 hertz, it's 10 cycles per second, 10 in-out cycles. You can't have a slow 10 hertz, or it would be, a different hertz. So there's no such thing as a slow or a fast subwoofer. If it's doing the right hertz, if it's doing what's asked for, it's going to be on the money with the speed. I think some of the distinction, there's a really good article on this on Database that explains it. But historically, some of the reason that people think that a big subwoofer is slow is because years ago, a lot of the big subwoofers had the same size magnets on the smaller drivers, and they were not really built very well. They didn't use the right size boxes, and so the drivers weren't under control. The cone excursion wasn't under control very well, and they would have overhang and they would have extra distortion and so forth. That's not the case anymore. That's not the way that these modern ones are being made. So it's really kind of an audio myth that speed woofer, and I'm going to use that term because it always kind of makes me chuckle when you say I got a speed woofer. It's trying to say that it's very accurate because it's smaller. It's just marketing bogusness. It's not how it works.
Well, and a big part of that I think comes into it too, that people associate, like I'm going back to the dry and wet thing I made last time, that a dry feeling with bass, meaning like what you would see at a home theater, 30 hertz and above, they're not able to get really low. They think that is more accurate, right? Because you don't get any of that low frequency, or what I'm going to refer to as the wetness down below, or that gel that's down below that. And people have this misnomer that represents accuracy, but in actuality, what's happening is you're just not playing anything that's below 30 hertz or 25 hertz or so, and you're missing a big chunk of what a good subwoofer is going to be able to deliver, and that is everything coming together instead of this like dry feeling, I guess. It happens a lot. And there was another question up here that I'm going to play, that I'm going to kind of roll into this, is that somebody asked about, is it even possible to contain these ultra low frequencies when you're starting to deal with these single digit numbers?
Right.
I think it's possible, but it gets very, very difficult when you start getting down into like 5 hertz, 6 hertz, 7 hertz, even like 10 hertz. You need a tremendous amount of space, and the bass traps that you would need, the size of them to be able to contain that would be enormous because the wavelengths are so long. So I think there starts to become this idea that, like, as an example, there's rooms at CEDIA and there's rooms at ISE that seem to do a pretty good job of containing everything. But what a lot of people don't pay attention to is the subwoofers that are being used in there are more akin to what you would see in a professional movie theater. They're not going below 30 or 25 hertz, and it's much easier to contain that. It still can be difficult, but you're not going to have this leakage from wavelengths that are ridiculously long that just leak out and can go everywhere. So yes, you probably can, but it's going to be much more difficult and much more expensive to be able to make that happen, which is why I just gave up on it altogether.
Yeah. Once you get into really low frequencies, the wavelength can be like 10, 20 something feet, right?
Longer even. Yes.
Longer.
I mean, 40, 50, 80 feet.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about, all right, a typical bass trap, even in my room, is 7 inches. How is a 7-inch trap going to stop a 20, 30, 40 foot wavelength?
It might stop you from hearing your wall vibrating, but
physically,
it's not going to stop it.
It physically can't. That's just impossible. And so, if you're trying to do isolation where you're keeping that sound in the room, there's a lot of different things.
High modulus is right. Really, the only way you'd be able to do it is if you had a concrete bunker. It's really the only way you'd be able to make that happen.
And a lot of dirt on the other side of the concrete bunker.
Yep.
You just need mass.
Yeah.
Because it's shaking. I mean, your entire house is shaking, and that's what's causing that noise outside. Then is the panels on the side of your house and your siding shaking.
For sure.
And so that's what's reverberating outside then at that point. But yeah, if you can stop that room from moving, you're not going to hear it outside.
And guys,
of the
I'm going to
room
tell you that shaking drywall can be very, very loud.
If it's not screwed down.
For sure.
Like hear it from multiple floors away sometimes.
So I'll just throw this out. So we had, definitely great questions. So I saw in the chat, Nick was like, man, I should be on here answering some questions. Absolutely. We'd love to have you on here. I saw you respond. We'll reach out. We'll get you scheduled. Same thing, Evan. We'd love to have you and Seymour and get Chris on here, and we can have a good conversation talking about, they've got some great new things. I know Evan and I were talking at last Mwave, and he said, we've got some really cool things. That
we haven't talked about screens yet.
No. So, I mean, there's quite a bit that Evan's working on for Seymour and with Seymour. So we're excited about that. And so hopefully last year they introduced, what was the technical term for that? Their screen.
The masking?
There was, Evan, let me know in the chat. I forget.
I don't remember what they called it.
Yeah, something, it's particular. Let us know in the chat. He'll say it in just a second. But the cool thing is that's able to, retro masking is what they called it.
That's right.
So basically, if you have a screen that even is from a different manufacturer, they have a product now that allows for masking, motorized masking that will kind of sit right on top of that. So retro masking system, absolutely. So that is a super, super cool system. And the great thing is they introduced that last year at Mwave. So we're excited about that. And so who knows, maybe they'll drop some new stuff at Mwave this year, or maybe we'll just have them on the podcast and we'll let them share it that way. So either way will be totally fine. So, all right, let's go back up here. Ender says, thinking of getting a Kaleidoscape, is it worth it to get the 22 terabytes over the 12 terabytes? Are the prices online similar to what you can get through a dealer?
I'm going to guess that nobody wants to take that.
The Kaleidoscape is a little out of my realm of knowledge. I mean, I've done a whole bunch of home theater tours.
This is going to depend on how much of a Pokemon gotta catch 'em all man you are. And what I mean by that is how some people really like having all of their media accessible all the time. Right? That's just some people like doing that.
Sure.
When you buy something on Kaleidoscape, you're able to. Some people are going to say, "Well, you don't technically own it," and I guess if it's in the cloud, you don't have a physical copy of it or on a drive or something. I get that, but you can buy something on Kaleidoscape and then store it or have the license for it, and then when you want to use it, you would just download it. And the new Strato C is able to download full 4K UHDs in
like less than 10 minutes,
12 minutes, something
on dial-up
for the real.
Not on dial-up.
Only for you, Kyle, out in the boondocks.
And if you got the Dollar Tree Wi-Fi,
no, I got fiber, man.
Either.
In like 12 minutes. So it just depends. Are you the type of person that wants to have readily accessible availability to all of your content, or are you okay with downloading some stuff? And 12 terabytes is still a lot. I mean, 6 terabytes is roundabouts enough to store 100 4K UHDs.
Okay.
Approximately.
And so, again, you've got access to the entire library. You can delete some of those and add more.
And are you able to start watching immediately? And it is as it's downloading, or do you have to wait?
You have to wait for it to finish.
Yeah, because you're not streaming at that point. You're physically downloading that to a hard drive and then reading it off that hard drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to wait for it to finish. So on a 12 terabyte, you're looking at 200 movies, and a 22, you're at about 400. So would you want that number? Does it matter to you? I don't know. But if you are shopping around, hit me up. I've actually got a 12 terabyte downstairs that needs a home. She needs a home.
Youth man deal.
I didn't say that. But
maybe not quite that. I'll give you a good deal on it, hopefully.
But they are very cool. So if you want to talk about it or have questions about it or make a purchase, just let me know and we can get you hooked up.
Nice. So Brian says, speaking of Seymour, he says, I'm unloading an unused 120-inch LunaVision ALR AT screen for 150-inch Seymour. So he's an upgrade, man. That's awesome. Got to get a quote material from your Ryan. And he also has a 14 terabyte right now. So super cool, man. This is a great question here. Evan, maybe you can just drop it in the chat. So do you guys have an AT ultra short throw screen?
I think they do.
I saw one at one of the shows. Maybe it was Audio Advice Live last year. So Evan, let us know in the chat if you've got
I'm
one.
in need of one of those.
I think they have one. So pretty sure.
Because I'm running an ultra short throw right now. And that's the one thing I hate about the ultra short throws. They're super cool to be able to throw in.
Yep. We lost you.
You're cutting out.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you for a second.
You hear me now?
You got that Dollar Tree Wi-Fi, man.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're super cool to be able to throw in a huge screen and a projector where you might not be able to, run the wires through ceiling and in a finished space. But your center channel is always going to be compromised. See you, buddy. Bye, Nick. It's always going to be compromised.
Like, where do you put that? You can't put it above the projector because that's going to shoot right into it.
And you don't really want to put it behind a screen that's not acoustically transparent because that's obviously going to affect the sound. So I mean, I've got one and I'm looking at it right now. It's 3 inches off the floor, sitting underneath the stand that the ultra short throw is on, and that's the one thing I just can't get behind on these ultra short throws. I mean, I'm using it, but I dislike it strongly.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely need some USB options on the market.
Nice. We're gonna have to buy you a new microphone, man.
Mm-hmm.
Is that bad?
Mm-hmm.
It's cutting out a lot.
Yeah. It's all good, man. We love you. We'll have you back on the show.
I blame the beard.
Could be.
Interference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna back out.
It's long enough that it's just acting as a radio antenna.
I love it. Jared says, what projectors will be on tap at Mwave? Ryan, what are we looking at this year?
It's always to me, isn't it?
Yeah.
So regardless of what the vendors bring, right? So if I got to put it up, it's going to happen. All the JVCs, all the Sonys, and the Epsons.
Nice.
So they're all going to be there. I'm going to put the call out to see if anybody wants to bring some of the older stuff to do comparisons to things. It's always nice to have like the older JVCs, the NX series, the ones before that, the RS 400, 500, 600, the older Epsons, the older Sonys, just to see how things compare. So people can see, oh, I've got that at home. Do I want to make an upgrade? Is it worth it? So on and so forth. So I think those are what's going to be there right now. As far as other displays, there's talks of Hisense coming.
Okay.
There is talks about a company hopefully bringing a bunch of TVs. So there's a couple different avenues that we're trying to pursue for that. As far as other ultra short throws, the Epson LS800 I think will be there. So you're going to have the Epson and the Hisense at least for now. We'll see if we can get some other ones. But I think those would be nice to see the 4 movie there. But we'll see where we go.
Yeah, better bring that little Optima, the little Optima DLP.
Mine?
Yeah, the little light cannon.
The little light cannon that could.
It shoots that light out of the vent on the front. That's
it's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, it tries so hard. It tries so hard, and then it just can't.
But yeah, so that, I mean, speaking of ultra short throws, that's another one of those things. Like, where can you go to really experience those, and especially putting a couple of them in the same room to be able to see how does an Epson look next to a Hisense. And so, definitely we're just trying to provide as many experiences as we can for you guys. And so if you're interested, we'd love to have you join us for Mwave 2023. All the details are on the website. You can check that out right there.
I don't know if the LG 810 is going to have a new model replacement by this summer. I haven't heard anything, but if it doesn't, that might be interesting to have that in there too.
An LG 810?
The one that Ryan started with? It's still popular on the forums.
That was terrible.
I still remember Nick and Tony. We can fix this. Hour and a half later, we can't fix this.
Yeah. Nope.
We've given up.
Nope. Cool stuff, man. All right. More questions here. So Don says, question to Youth Man, are you going to review the new Emotiva receiver? We actually addressed that during our last podcast, I believe. It's a 3-hour podcast, so you may have missed that. I don't have any plans right now. Biggest thing, I've just got way too much gear. Not sure I'm super excited about it, but that's just me. So it might be cool, but I got to get way past some stuff before I say, hey, send me more stuff to pile in my garage.
He's got a lot of stuff to do.
Oh, yeah. My plate is overfloweth. Speaking of overflow, it has nothing to do with anyway, nothing to do with nothing. I took my dad and my son to a Brazilian steakhouse today. So those are like all you can eat steak. They bring it to your, would you like some filet mignon? Sure. Hook me up. And they cut off a piece of filet, and then they bring you some lamb, then they bring you some sausage, and they bring you some bacon
hungry,
wrap.
Man. Those places are amazing.
Bacon wrap filet. If you guys have never been to a Brazilian steakhouse, Google it in your area. They're kind of expensive, about $40 to $50, even for lunch per person. But it's all you can eat. It's awesome. It's a great experience. One of the things where even if you just do it one time, it's kind of like the melting pot, just to go. It's a cool vibe, a cool experience. But and that had nothing to do with speakers, subwoofers, or projectors, but that fit right in.
Little anecdote.
Yeah, man. So Jamie says, if you have a small setup, do you recommend getting new subwoofers first or upgrading your front soundstage? Great question there, Jamie. What do you guys think? New subwoofers or front soundstage? And so I'm assuming he's saying upgrading, that would be,
I'm pointing at these two.
Yeah, upgrading would be having better front soundstage. So I think eventually you're going to do both. I think you'll probably end up getting new subwoofers down the road, and you're going to end up over time, if you're not satisfied with your front soundstage, maybe they don't have the output you want, maybe they don't have the clarity or even the sound signature that you're looking for. Eventually you're going to do that. I don't know if one or the other is going to be more important. I would say, what is lacking the most in your setup?
Yeah.
Are you missing?
Can you hear me a little bit better now too?
Yeah, you sound really good.
So what I was going to say is, if you're going to look at upgrading both over time, if your front stage currently is going to be able to keep up with whatever subwoofers you're going to be putting in there, then go ahead and add your subwoofers and then later upgrade your front stage to what you want. But if they're not going to keep up, if you're going to want to be playing loud enough to where your front stage is just going to sound terrible, and it's going to be clipping or just not going to be getting to that level, I'd say upgrade your front stage first, get a nice sound up front, and then later on fill in the low end. So that's how I would do it.
Terriel says, kind of saying the same thing, banging subs makes your system sound more expensive than it really is. Good quality subwoofers will make your setup sound and feel more impressive, even if your speakers are decent, versus the other way around. If you got really amazing speakers, but your subwoofer is bottoming out, or just can't handle the output, or you don't really feel it, you just hear it, that definitely I could see the value there. For sure, man. Randall says, hey, all, wanted to know, does it harm your AV receiver if you use it 12 to 15 hours every single day? I do have a cooling fan on top of my Marantz SR6015. I watch movies and binge watch series a lot, especially Youth Man's channel. Man, I certainly appreciate that, Randall. Oh, that wasn't in there. Honestly, I'm glad to hear that you've got a cooling fan on that, especially with that length of time. I think heat is one of the things that really damages electronics. And so if it's running for 12 to 15 hours a day, that's a lot, probably more than maybe the manufacturer expected you to use it, but that's pretty awesome. It's kind of a testimony to Marantz, man. That joker's doing 15 hours a day. That's a lot of watching. So I think with any electronics, the more you use it, the the shorter that lifespan is going to be. I mean, so eventually it's going to die or run out of juice, and then you're going to have to upgrade. But I don't think I guess my thought is all right, I'll give you an analogy. Some guys buy a beautiful projector and then they run it on eco mode. And I'm thinking, which makes it dim. And I'm going, why? Why would you run it at low capacity? Or, they walk around with this brand new cell phone, beautiful display, 1440 resolution, and they've got the brightness turned all the way down. What's the point of that, man? So I think my advice to you, use it like you use it. And then when its lifespan is up, the lifespan is up. Hopefully the SR6015 will last you for years and years to come. And then when it dies, you got a legitimate excuse to tell, if you've got a significant other or your wife, hey, babe, we just got to get a new one. And then you get the latest, greatest. So.
Or you could be like Jonathan, just continually walk subwoofers by it until it breaks.
Exactly.
Just drop one on it.
And
but he's keeping it cool though, so that's the biggest thing. He's got a fan on there, so
I think that's a great thing. Richard even asked, like, what kind of fan are you using? Drop that in the chat if you
use it like you stole it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, with modern electronics, solid state electronics, the inrush of current is probably more damaging to it than leaving it on. So like if you power cycled it on and off 20 times a day as you left the room, that'd be worse for it than just leaving it on all day. So
I think it's actually the heating up and cooling down, the constant expansion and contraction of the device that's what can hurt it. If you left it on, I think you'd be fine. I don't think, I think it's fine.
And it's all anecdotal, but there's people on AVS forum that recommend and say that they do just leave their stuff on 24/7.
They don't even shut it off.
So
yeah, I do that with my computer. It never gets shut down. Every once in a while I'll reboot it, but it rocks all day, every day. Cool deal, man. I'm glad you're getting a lot of use out of it. Sadly, I don't get 12 to 15 hours a day on my setup. I wish I did, but I'm too busy making content for you guys. High Modulus says, now I'm thinking of seeing if I can find funding to do a research project. How much SPL starts to damage your house? So what are we looking at SPL wise to
orbit
really? But I mean, SPL, we talking 140?
I think 140 is kind of that range where you start breaking drywall and loosening drywall and stuff. I do 130 in my basement pretty regularly, and over the course of 8 years, I've got some screws and some nails starting to kind of show some drywall marks, but it's not that bad. 140 at Doug's house, we were watching drywall start flapping off the walls. So, like it literally, it's not just barely loosening. It's like starting to
remember every 3
dB
is a doubling.
Every
6
dB is
every 6 dB.
10 is
what sounds
10 is what sounds like doubling, but 6 by the math is a doubling of SPL. But so I would guess, and you could probably ask, there's some guys on the forum that would probably know from firsthand experience. Penny Nike busted out a window in his basement. He has 150 dB in his basement and literally busted the glass out of his basement window. So, at some point you're breaking stuff. And I think that's around 140 where it starts.
Yeah, I'd hit 130 and it never did anything to the sheetrock in our last place. I'd hit 130 regularly as well, but
I think I'm one of those guys that I almost get fearful, not for my subwoofers. I get fearful for my room. Like I've got a big double sliding glass door, and I'm going, I don't want that thing to just shatter in half or crack down the middle. So I kind of, when it gets intense, I'm like, okay, that's plenty for me.
Have you guys ever been around any of those cars that have had base competition or had if you had some just some couple 15s in it and everything starts rattling and the panels get loose and it sounds like aluminum cans when you're driving down the road. Yeah. And even if you're not playing, you can wreck it. And that you can do that to your house. So case in point, after that 2012 subwoofer meet that we were talking about, like my room, not even like in my room, when I played bass at the same levels I did before, my room was all rattly and like crappy. That was part of the reason we wanted to move houses too, because I wanted to, because my own 3-liter room sounded horrible now. It's like it needed to be redone. Yeah. So I mean, you can absolutely damage stuff.
John says, hey, Michael and Ryan, what is the best budget processor that can give me the 13 to 15 channels for speakers plus 4 sub outputs? I think we addressed this maybe even on the last podcast too. So we'll hit that pretty quick. 13 to 15 channels, 4 sub outs.
There isn't a budget processor for 13 channels or 15.
Well, no, you do an AVR with pre-outs would probably be what you would do.
13 channels. The cheapest way I know to get into that is a thing called Tone Winner. I think is that 11 or 13? I think it's 13, isn't it?
I think
Tone Winner has
16, isn't it?
16.
They have a 16.
Okay.
Yeah,
That might be right.
There's even
but I've heard their software is kind of weird.
Well,
but
you would
yes,
expect that.
you did say
It's like
budget, cheapest way.
1,200, 1,500 bucks. Anyone remember what it is exactly? It's in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's under $2,000. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's well under $2,000.
And then if you want to go to a major player, you got the Denon X6700 for 13 channels, which is probably cheap. Emotiva has a 13 channel, I think. That's fairly inexpensive. 16 channel even.
They have a 16.
And now you're stepping up. If you want 15 channels, now you're paying through the nose. You're going to be paying like $5,000 for anything with 15 channels, pretty much, except for Monoprice. Maybe Monoprice might be the exception at 4,000.
So this might be another option for you. I'm not familiar with them other than just the name. I can't even pronounce it, but Iotavix, something like that. So it's a 17 channel processor. It's $17.90 or $16.99. I don't know if that's U.S. currency or
I've never even heard of this one.
Yeah, so this is fairly new. I've seen a couple guys do some videos on there, except I don't know how to. Okay, here we go. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Take a look at the back. So there's your 4 subwoofers, 1, 2, 3, 4 right there.
I know nothing about this thing.
Yeah,
I never even heard of that brand. Yeah.
So this is definitely one of those budget options. So maybe check them out. IOTAVX. Again, I know nothing about them, but there are a few people on YouTube that have some videos on that. So again, just might be a resource there for you.
The closest I can get at a budget with reputable companies is going to be something like a Cinema 50 in pre-out mode using, I think it's 11.4. When you start getting to 13, it gets more difficult, and you start paying a little bit more. You said the 6700 does that, Jonathan.
X6700 has 13 channels,
and I don't think there's a new replacement for that yet, is there?
No, the 6800's delayed. I think it will come out later this year.
Yeah, a lot of guys were saying the same thing in the chat. So Tone Winner, Iota. So that's probably your 2 budget-friendly ones.
I always just shy away from those mainly because of customer service. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen there.
So I think
room
the thing
correction
is
probably going to be non-existent on both of those.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, not everybody's got the budget for separates, and maybe that's not the best way to go. You might be better off, like Ryan said, doing just a nicer AVR, using it as a processor. Don't use the internal amplification. Use XLR. You probably on an AVR, most of them have just RCA, but use RCA out, go into your amplifiers and do it that way. Like Jayhawk says, the 8805 is definitely not budget, but he loves it for sure.
But isn't the 8805 13.2?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 15, he's looking for 15 to 17 channels. So
he's looking to 15 plus 4.
Yeah.
So effectively what the AV10 is delivering.
Yeah. And then that's not budget friendly at all. That's what, $7-8 roughly? Maybe less.
7 map, I think, isn't it?
Is it 7?
Is it more than that? I thought they were 7, but maybe
I
not.
have no idea. I'd have to go look.
Yeah. So they're pretty on up there.
It's not entry level though.
No, for sure. But hopefully that'll give you some information there, John.
But John, if you need something, let me know, because even if it's the AV10, we can see what we can do to help you out.
Throw your email up there in case you need that.
Wait a minute. SRW with 1000 says HTB1 gets you 16 total and up to 5 subs.
No,
that doesn't make sense. Isn't it? It's 16 channels
and 16 channels total.
15 and a mini DSP might get you that way, I guess. But
let us know, SRW 1000. Where do you get that from?
And up to 5 subs.
I thought it was a 16 channel.
I think it is 16 channel.
That's what I thought too.
Well, take a look at it. Pull it up. HTP-1.
That makes too much sense, Michael. Why would we do that when we can just?
Hey, we're all about.
We could just look confused.
Yeah, we're all about education here. let's look at the rear of it. Let's see what it offers. And while I'm doing that, if he adds it in the chat, that'll be good. Here we go. Monolith. We don't want to sign up for email newsletter. So there's the rear.
Yep.
2 subs over here.
That's 16.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 16 XLR out.
Okay. So maybe we're missing something. He says the 5 subs take up 5 of the 16 channels on the HTP1.
Well, then you're at 11 channels.
Yeah.
So unless you end up using the RCA is up here.
Those
And
are
then
trigger
maybe-
ports.
Maybe he's saying 16 total, and of those 16, 5 of them can be subs.
Okay. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, he does say that. So 11 plus 5 subs. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Now you could use all 16 channels and then use RCA sub outs. No, that's trigger outs. Where's the sub outs?
There aren't any. They're all
Everything
like
else is input.
Okay, so never mind.
Yeah.
I saw the 4. I'm like, oh yeah, that's those are trigger outs. 12.4 or 12 volt triggers. All right. Ryan, we've done this like 6 times. Ryan Spears says, has anyone been in a sound isolated home theater that has been able to contain subwoofer frequencies? Is it possible? I think it's absolutely possible, at least for the most part. It's really difficult to completely isolate a room, but there are definitely some things that you can do to separate that. A lot of guys will use double drywall. They'll alternate their studs on the inside and outside of the room so that they don't connect, and that kind of separates the room. You'll hear people maybe refer to it as a room within a room. They'll use the green glue. What are those isolation
clips
or whatever? So
Back
that
clips.
again, there's a bunch of different things. The gentleman that I just filmed, he has $1 million Star Wars home theater. And part of what he did is he has different layers of different density and different materials. And so the more times that you can change that, the more supposedly that it'll help block those sound waves. And so his room is really isolated. But again, I think you can still hear it in the other parts of the home. It's just not going to be as drastic as if you just, like we're in my home and it's just got drywall. That's just going to go through that.
You can. Best way, as we said earlier, is a concrete bunker to contain it. But most people aren't going to have
with a concrete door too. I mean, right? It's going to go through your wooden door.
Vault door.
There you go.
Vault doors, they have concrete in the center of them. So yeah.
There you go. See.
There you go. Concrete bunker, vault door.
That's your answer. Mark Fox, good to see you, buddy. Timber match important for Atmos heights. So what he's talking about, timbre matching, is when all the speakers kind of have the same sound characteristic, And so typically if you, like in my case, I've got JTR up front, and then I've got clips in ceiling, and I've got clip surrounds. Jonathan, he's got identical speakers. Ryan has the same brand of speakers. Kyle, you have the same brand of speakers.
Yeah, I have ones right now. I don't have in ceiling currently.
We lost you there for a second.
Perfect. I said I just have the reflecting off the ceiling. I don't have the in ceiling currently. But yeah, so I mean it's all Def Tech.
Okay. But it's all the same brand though.
Yeah.
So how important is timbre matching for your Atmos or your height speakers? What do you guys feel?
I'm gonna say required no, optimal yes.
Sure.
Yep.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
If you have your druthers and you can do it, then do it. And if you can't, enjoy it anyway.
Yeah. And I think one of those things is, there's the ideal system, and then there's what we have right now and what we can afford and what we're building. And as long as you go, I've always encouraged this thing should be a journey. This is a process. Most of us don't have the luxury of writing a check and buying all of our equipment, all of our theater seating, all of our Atmos speakers, all of our amplifiers, our processor, fancy projector, all this stuff at once. And so I know even for me, I mean, my journey, I've got a video on my channel of my journey in my home theater. And it starts off really, really small, really simple. And just over the years, we've added more speakers. We added bigger subwoofers. We've added a 4K projector native. And so that's a process. And so maybe for you, having those high Atmos speakers, what you have is fine right now. You know, and then as you're able to get yours timbre matched, I just always say, like you said, ideally you want it from at least the same brand, because most speakers are going to have their own kind of characteristic sound. They're going to have their own, I don't know if you want to call it a curve, but basically just their own signature. And so if you try to match, say for instance, let's just say a clip speaker with a Martin Logan speaker, they use totally different tweeters. So they're going to sound totally different. They use totally different drivers. And so when things pan from your front to overhead to the rear, it may sound a little funky. The good thing is we've got room correction, which is going to listen for that. And it's going to try to EQ it as best as it can, but it may not be able to make a really smooth transition. So ideally, yeah, if you can timbre match, definitely go for it, but you may not be able to. Good question. Christian says, hey guys, what would you choose between an Onkyo RZ50, Sony AZ5000 ES, and the Marantz 6050, 7015, 6015 or 7015? I will be running 5.1.4.
Well, obviously the SR 6015, because I have one that I need to get rid of.
My vote also is for Marantz, and the biggest reason is just I've had several Denon, I've had several Marantz. They just work. And I know there are definitely going to be some people that may not have had the same experience, but I mean, I just don't have any hiccups with it. Sony is they're coming back into the game, which is good. I think that's always a great thing. I've just never been super impressed with Sony. But these may be a different series, especially coming in at some of them are like $3,500. I'm going Sony, the same company that used to make super budget friendly $450 AVRs, is gone.
I mean, good for them.
Gone for 10 years, and then they just slide back in and go, hey man, we've got a premium. Okay. But they seem to be getting good reviews. So I hope they do well. Onkyo was always really, really solid. For a while, they got away from using Odyssey, and they went to, I think,
AccuEQ.
Yeah, their own kind of thing, and it wasn't that great.
It was made by Dolby, but it was pretty basic.
Yeah,
AccuEQ was a Dolby product.
Okay, so
but it was basic. The RZ50 uses Dirac, by the way.
Okay, and so that's a step up. That's awesome.
Which is a pretty nice calling card.
Yeah. Depend. It's not the same level as Dirac as a lot of the other things you're going to have, especially with taps and filters, but it is as far as the room correction and stuff. I also want to say that the SR 6015 I have is brand new in box, just so you think I'm not just trying to unload something on you.
For sure. So like Pedro saying, the new Sony 7000 is 13 channels. It's processor for $3,200. Man, it's just weird seeing them come from budget. And I know they used to have the ES series, but they certainly weren't $3,200 back then either. They were probably along the $1,200 line. And I know that was a long time ago, and prices is different now with inflation and everything. But
before you buy that Sony, make sure you see a bench test on it, because Sony has historically been known for putting pretty weak amplifiers in their AVR products. And I don't know if they've shifted gears on that or not, but I would want to see a bench test first.
Yeah. I like that idea. Kind of going back to earlier, Iota is a British company. They've been making waves for the 2-channel integration amps. Okay. Cool. Well, we may come back to that question, but I just thought we'd mention that since we talked about those earlier. So I was trying to read it. It's like Mitsu Kid. Mitsu Kid says, Mr. Kyle, what was the cost total? Is it better than JTR and per subs? I have a Rel S5 and I need to upgrade and do not want to double dip. What are y'all's thoughts?
So total cost on subwoofers. So they were at the time about $1,200 a piece, and because I got multiples, I got a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll say $1,000 a piece. Now they're more expensive than that now, just because the way things are. This was at least 4 years ago, but say $3,000 in subwoofers, the drivers themselves. Wood, I mean, probably $250 because they're large enclosures, and maybe more
cutting out again.
Is that better?
Sure.
No. Yeah.
We can hear you.
All right. So, sorry. I'll invest in something better next time, guys. So we'll say 250 to 300 for wood. So you're at 3,300. Paint. You can get something and roll it and do it for about $150. So say you get the finished cabinets for $3,500. If you go all out and spend a little bit more on components, maybe $4,000 for what I did.
What subs are you talking about?
The 324s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you custom built your own subwoofer cabinets.
So I mean that takes a lot of time. You got to factor that into it. It's not just hey, what's the total cost? It's I spent dozens of hours building these cabinets, prepping them to paint, spraying them, doing all the bracing on the inside, cutting strips of wood to do all that. So I mean it took a long time to build everything to that size and to finish it how I did. But after that, you also got to think you have to power it. So it's not just what can you build the sub for, because a lot of these companies that are making subs ready to go in your system, they've got integrated amplifiers. So I spent another $800 or $900 on the Symbosin amp to power all those. So
probably $5,000
for 324s, completely powered, ready to go. Maybe a little less than that, but yeah, you're looking around 5,000.
Yeah,
probably more now.
For sure,
substantially more now.
Yeah, I'd say at least probably 1,500 more total. Especially because wood is super expensive now. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, this question is for you. Or a statement, maybe. Don Dunn was talking smack on Ryan's theater on Shane Lee's last live stream. He went on and on about how it was stupid to use electrostats in home theater. Ryan, what are your thoughts on using electric stats? Why did you go with that in your home theater?
Because I'm weird.
I know initially you told me, you're like, nobody's ever really done this. And I want to do that. I want something different.
Probably because my home theater is a narcissist vision of what a home theater should be. It's designed for one seat. It's not meant to share the love with anybody else. It's meant for one seat. So I'd also do a lot of 2-channel listening, and I love my Martin Logans for that. And I just decided I wanted to do something a little bit different. I don't think it sounds worse. I think the imaging is superb in that one seat. Now, if you get outside that one seat, it's not as good. I totally admit that. It drops off significantly, but in that one seat, I mean, I don't know that there's really anything better when you're in that one seat, but it's, again, I might as well name it the Narcissist Home Theater because that's what it is.
I love it, dude.
You got to build a theater around what you got. And if you're building something in a way that isn't conducive to your hardware, then it doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's, I don't know. I don't even know if he was talking. Somebody was saying, I don't even know if he was talking about my theater, but
who knows?
He hasn't been in my theater. So think what you want.
Don, you need to fly up and check out Ryan's home theater.
Fellas, I think I'm going to call it a night at 2 hours.
Have a good one, brother.
Nice talking to you guys.
Always a pleasure.
See you, buddy.
Yep. Good night.
I probably got another 15 minutes in me. I got to try to finish putting up a TV I've been working on today.
There you go. Home Theater Nerd says, when you talk about running subs hot, where do you measure from? If you run a house curve, where is it 10B hot at 30 hertz and drops to even with mains at 80 or by 80 hertz? Is that 10 dB hot?
I usually base it on test tones and sweeps.
So that's coming from the main listening position, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Remember, I'm the narcissist home theater.
It's right there.
It's all one seat.
Yeah.
So it's all about sweeps and stuff and where they are in comparison to where the speakers are is what I'm basing it on.
Yeah, mine are, I've got like what they call a house curve. So the bass is quite a bit hotter than the rest of like your mid-range and your treble.
And it also depends on what crossover you're running. Like I'm running an LR48 in my processor, so my drop off is steeper and stays flatter for a longer period of time. So just depends on, I guess, what you're doing, and how you're doing it. Good question though.
So Gamma Knife says, should I set my front, left, and right floor standing speakers, clips RF 280F to small or large in my AV receiver, Pioneer LX505? Thanks. I definitely like running my mains and really all my speakers at small, and then letting the subwoofer handle what it's designed to do, and that's to handle those low frequencies. Even big towers, and those aren't necessarily what I consider big towers. They've got dual 8-inch drivers. Even if you got, I got 12-inch drivers in mine. Kyle, you've got, what are in your DS?
The 12-inch drivers as well, 1299.
Do you run them small or large in your setup?
All, because I've got subs working. I mean, if I were to do 2-channel listening with no sub, I'd set them to large, because then it'd be getting the entire frequency response.
Man, we are losing you big time.
But you got subs for a reason, so cross them over.
I think even in 2-channel, I run my subs. I mean, I've got 15As, which have two 12-inch drivers in each of them. Michael, you've got some massive up front. Yeah. So we still run them small because those drivers can't keep up with the dedicated subs. There's no reason to try and reinvent the wheel when you're doing stuff like that. So small all the way, unless you're not running subs.
Neil Hansen says, anyone here in New York, New Jersey, South Connecticut area want to join a home theater meetup group? Cool deal, man. I love hearing that. I love it when you guys, and that's part of what we do Mwave for, is because I want you to connect with people that are like-minded, that have the same passion, and hopefully you can find some people in your area. The cool thing is our last Mwave, we had guys from Texas that didn't know there were other guys local to them, and they formed their own little group, started an AVS thread, and they meet regularly. So that's super cool.
Hopefully their marriages are okay.
Yeah. So drop some notes in the chat if you're in that area. Rocksteady says, what are some good amps to pair with high sensitivity DIY speakers?
Shouldn't really matter. I mean, a good amp's a good amp. You guys all know what I'm going to say.
I'm going to switch us just because we're both looking that way.
You all know what I'm going to say. Buckeye for
Buckeye,
sure.
Buckeye.
Yeah, I mean, just cost for performance. Find something that's ticks all the boxes, and that should work. Good amp's a good amp. As long as it brings enough power and does what you want, and it's the type of amp that you want, it should be great.
Pinarello, man, I said that wrong. Pinarello Rider says, great content. Do either of you gents have an opinion about buying refurbished equipment, subs, AVR, speakers directly from the brand? Okay.
I've done it.
I think we've all done it.
I think it's a great way to save some money.
It can be, but this is not to knock anything, but everything that I've bought has ended up failing.
On the refurb side?
One of the things to worry about when you do that stuff, especially directly from the brand, yes, you get a warranty, but it's typically only a year. So
it's shorter than the regular one? Okay.
I've bought from accessories for less, and normally they have a 2- and 3-year warranty option on things.
Yeah, they're down here in Florida.
Yeah.
So I've heard guys using them. I've never bought refurb myself.
I had a Yamaha 11-channel amp, and it failed, and it took almost 8 months to get it fixed.
Yikes.
So just be careful. Sometimes you can find deals that can outweigh that, and sometimes it's better to spend a little bit more money and buy it new and have the confidence, and then the direct warranty, longer warranty too, with the company.
Yeah.
And on certain things, like take JVCs for example, if you buy a new JVC in comparison to a B stock, you get advanced replacement. So if yours dies, they will send you one, and then you send yours back. So it's a bit better experience. pay for it, but it's a better experience.
For sure. Robbie, excited for you, man. He says he just purchased the Marantz Cinema 50 this weekend from Best Buy. Want to thank you all for the information. Upgrading from Denon AVR 720. Super cool, man. Exciting when we get some new gear. Mark says, do any of you have any experience with D-Sonic Class D amplifiers? I personally haven't used them, but I've been in some home theaters that have used them. And kind of like Ryan said, I mean, they provide a lot of power. They're clean. I mean, I didn't have any issues with them for sure, but I personally haven't reviewed any or anything. You guys?
No, they're probably they're probably great amplifiers. I don't have anything negative to say about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't experienced them myself.
They fit your budget and check all the boxes. Go for it. Jen says, how does Storm audio compare to Trinov for a 9.2.6 setup? Which one does better in spatial audio? Thanks.
I personally really like the approach that Storm takes. Storm is like a traditional audio processor run by a computer, and Trinov is all computer. So I have better experiences with Storm. I won't knock Trinov. I think they do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I've just always been very, very happy with what Storm has brought to the table. They continue to innovate, and once you buy into the ecosystem, you never really have to buy anything else. They're fantastic. So if you have any questions about Storm, even if you're not buying anything, feel free to reach out, because Storm is one of those products in Trinov that are very complex, and things can get confusing. And there's a lot of questions that should be answered. And when you start getting into this price tier, I mean, it is very much a direct dealer to user experience, hands-on the whole way. So that's part of what you're paying for, and Storm provides that. And I bought my Storm not as a dealer. Right. I bought it as an end user before I became a dealer. So I've had no complaints with it. I have a lot of experience with both, and I would pick Storm every time.
Now you're a fan for life.
For better or for worse.
Frank says ported subs at front, sealed subs for near field behind seats. Will this configuration create issues? Better to go all sealed? ?
Anybody else?
You guys have more experience with near field than I do. I've never done it on my end. I've just experienced.
I like sealed versus ported personally.
Are you talking about for everything, or are you talking about just because he's? Yeah, so he's saying he's got ported up front. So should he go with ported in the back as well?
When I started modeling mine and talking to people on the forums, they kind of steered me away from mixing ported and sealed subs. I'll just say that.
It can be difficult. For near fields, I don't think it's nearly as much of a problem because they're not going to be nearly as loud. And your integrations are going to be fine. I really wouldn't worry about that. But if you're mixing ported and sealed in a normal theater, you can run into some issues. It took me days to get my integration to work correctly. Phasing was all weird, and there was a bunch of problems. So I think you're fine. You're definitely going to want to go sealed for near fields. If you really want the chest thump output, depending on the subs, ported can give that to you a little bit easier than the sealed can. They're going to have greater output up top, but the seals are going to have greater output down low. It's the best way to think about it. Like Michael's RS2s, right, can outrun my 4,000 ULFs under 10 hertz, right? Over that, the 4,000s have got it, but they fall off a cliff at about 10 hertz. And
which is still stupid low, though.
It is. It is. But
10 hertz is ridiculous.
10 hertz is stupid low, but it's when I was incorporating them into the RS1s, I had to make a distinction of they got to fall off the cliff, and even the RS1's got to fall off the cliff, because if I try and do this to 5, my frequency response isn't nearly as good.
Right.
So there's a lot of compromises that have to be made. So if you want tremendous output up top, ported. If you want even response and digging down to way down into SIGA digits, sealed.
SIGA digits, I like that.
SIGA digits.
Bob says, can you mix 24-inch? And said, oh, we did that one earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Mid-bass Maestro says, do you point the UMic at a speaker 1 meter away to check response without room interference? Good question. So that's the difference between, like, what do they call it, 90 degrees on the calibration. So when you're trying to remove the room, and I guess they call that, is that a near field?
A near field measurement.
Yeah. So he's talking about putting it really close to the speaker and measuring it that way. And that way you get less of the room interaction. So yeah, but that's exactly what you would do if you're using like the UMIC 1 or the UMIC 2. It comes with 2 calibration files that you load into REW. So make sure you load the correct one, depending on if you're pointing it up or if you're pointing it at the, I think one says 0 degrees and the other one says 90 degrees. Randy says, Kyle, what are you going to do with all those JBL 12s that you bought and when?
Yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah, I need to do something with them. I just moved all of them in my shop and I'm tired of moving them.
He's just going to build a couch out of the drivers and just put like seat cushions over the top. That's it. And frame will be woofers.
And we'll have to come up with a cool name besides Hover Boss. Name it our own thing. No, I'm probably going to build
the Wooch. The woofer couch.
The couch.
The Hover Bliss.
Hover Bliss. There you go.
Hover Bliss, yeah.
I'm probably going to build 2 towers of 6 woofers in each. I've got 16 total, so it still gives me some to play around with. But I'm thinking about putting them in my front of the room here, actually, and just building 2 towers with 6 woofers in each.
Yeah.
So line array of subs.
Boss Bliss.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come up with something.
And I plan to start doing it soon because I've got our shop cleaned out where I can start doing some projects. So next couple months, I'm hoping to actually get those out of the boxes.
Yeah. So you've kind of taken, not a hiatus on your channel, but you definitely taken a kind of a back seat to grow in the channel. He was going really steady.
You can say hiatus. it's been down. I mean, my content's been down for a while, but yeah.
But Kyle, you made the right decision though. You made a decision to put a halt on your channel and the growth to take care of your family, mainly your dad and your mom, and helping them out with their place. And then you moved into that home and they moved into a smaller place because they were getting older and they weren't able to manage that property because it's a big property, a lot to take care of. And so you spent the past probably 6 months to a year trying to fix up their home, and then now you own that house, which is super cool because you grew up there, right?
Yep. Yeah, you've been here. You've seen how big the yard cleanup can be sometimes after a storm. It's like 2-3 trees can fall down, and that's your weekend right there. So it's been a process getting everything together and getting it how we want it and not how like how my parents had it. And then on top of that, my dad's health was bad the past several years, so there was a lot of cleanup work on my end, not only on the house, but we've got a 40 by 60 building. And he had, since I moved back, we've sold 3 cars. He did body work, so he had a frame machine, which is like a 20-foot giant like car lift that you pull frames back straight on. 8-foot long paint mixing station because he painted cars. Like just going through all these tools and things that I don't have any need for, and trying to find the right buyers for, because that's the hard thing too. It's like this is like specialty type stuff that we've had to wait after putting it up to find the right sort of buyer for. So it's been a process, but we're in a good spot, and like I said, I'm able to get some projects done that I want to do now versus things that need to be done. So it's good.
So you'll find on Kyle's channel he's got DIY stuff, subwoofers and speakers, and then you got him riding a front end or whatever, this big old tractor digging up sewage tanks and sewage lines and all kinds of stuff. So he's like,
that was a fun little series.
He's like, I got to make content on what I'm doing, and what I'm doing right now is really just fixing up my yard and my house and helping my parents. And so, but it's cool to have you back, man. I'm glad to get you on the channel. I know you've been super busy with the family, and
I appreciate it, and I'm excited to get back into it. Like it's almost like it's weighed on me for the past year or 2 years. It's like, man, I need to try to do something. But we've always had stuff going on that I've got to do outside of YouTube. So I'm excited to be on here, and thanks for inviting me to come on with you guys. And I'm going to get some more content out, and definitely excited to get some things going for Mwave. So it's going to be a good time.
Kyle's going to be hanging out with us. He's going to be MCing Mwave this year. So we're excited to have you and to be a bigger part of Mwave. So definitely subscribe to Life of Bliss over on YouTube. And he's got some stuff coming from GSG, some content coming from Stereo Integrity. So it should be a lot of fun there. Scott says, I currently have a cylinder subwoofer, and in all placements locations, I have nulls around 60 hertz. Will going dual help, or am I better off going with something with better placement options?
That null probably exists at your main listening position.
Mm-hmm. So a couple things I guess you could do. If you're able to move your couch or seating position forward or backward, you might be able to get out of that null. The other thing is, like you said, when you start adding multiple subwoofers, sometimes that can help, but you're going to have to time align them. You're going to have to EQ those and get them to kind of play nicely together instead of fighting against each other. I have a pretty nasty null in mine. Mine's about 50 hertz in the main listening position. So kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, part of the way that I'm able to help that, because I really wanted my subwoofers to be behind my screen, because I have a really small room. My room's 13 by 19, but the front wall, that cabinet is 4 feet deep. So effectively, I've got 15 by 13 of floor space. So to put a subwoofer in the middle of the room or on the side of the room really isn't very conducive. So I wanted everything behind that. But because of the placement, I definitely have some nasty nulls. And so the way I was able to still get a flat frequency response to 5 hertz is basically I had to reduce the parts of the frequency response that were doing good down to where the null is. And so I'm losing output, but I still have way more. I had so much headroom in those subwoofers that I've just kind of brought those down to the null so that it's all flat. So depending on what subwoofers you have, you may or may not be able to do that. So I think adding additional subwoofers could help you there. But again, you're going to need something like a mini DSP to really dial that in, and to try to, get those two subwoofers to play nicely together. But you'll find that a lot of times. But yeah, I think kind of like what Ryan's saying, your seating, wherever it's located, you're probably just sitting in the null, in those, what they call base, is it modes or nodes? Mode. So Google that, base modes. You can actually, there's calculators online that can tell you, plug in the dimensions of your room, and it'll tell you where the modes are in your room. So you'll know, okay, I'm going to have some issues in this unless I can move my seating forward 1.5 feet or backwards 2 feet or something like that. Good question there, Scott. So Dumb No Bass says, do you guys test speakers like the DIY-SG, do-it-yourself sound group 1099s at Mwave? Just curious how they sound compared to a commercial offering.
We've only done Mwave once, so
yeah. We don't have DIY sound group. They're not coming, but Kyle, you've got some of their products that'll be there, so we won't probably be testing them per se.
I'll have the 1299s there, not the 1099s. I can probably bring the Volt 10s as well, just to have if we can use them somehow. So yeah, there'll be a couple things from them, but maybe I don't know, maybe we can get a hold of them and see what they can do.
Martin says, here we go. Martin says, it's what I did. One main listening position. It's basically just me 99.5% of the time. Might as well make that single main listening position as good as possible. Yeah. Another narcissist. So you got a friend there, Ryan.
There you go.
Unite.
Richard, great to have you again at Mwave. Richard was there last year at our inaugural Mwave. So he says, will OSB be at Mwave again this year? I love the insight of the OSB representative. So his name was Simon. Simon's a super, super nice guy, incredibly knowledgeable. So honestly, sadly, I've got a list of people that I still have to reach out to, and I haven't even reached out to OSB. So they're on the list, so I've got to get.
Isn't it OSD?
OSD.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, OSB that's like their streaming program. So he was close though. Randy, good call there. So yeah, so I'd still need to reach out to Simon and Dave, the owner. So
I'd like to have them back. Simon's a wealth of knowledge.
He is.
He would do great at a seminar.
Yeah.
So that would be super cool. So we'll reach out to him. Bob Gray says, Ryan, how did you decide on the Storm versus Trent? You kind of talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on. Bodie, good to see you here, Billy. He says, can you still get the effect of a far field sub when using the near field subs?
Yes.
You can localize it a little bit more, I feel like, but
I mean, you can tell it's kind of behind you, but when you start getting into the really low stuff, you can't tell.
No.
The key is to use both at the same time so you can't localize anything.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever experienced a near field without other subwoofers in the room.
Yeah, I don't know that I would do that. Maybe in like the back of a room. I wouldn't put it true near field, though, where it's right behind you. If it was a couple feet away, maybe. But what people, I think, forget is that, yeah, you can't theoretically localize omnidirectional waves from low frequency because they're going everywhere. But through room mode, vibrations, and all kinds of other stuff, the human body and brain can localize things. So it's typically best to have multiple epicenters, if you will, so that it's much more difficult to localize.
Cool. We got 2 more questions and we'll wrap up here at just over probably about 2.5 hours. So not quite as long as last week. Leadership Push says 1 15-inch sub or 2 12s in a 10 by 12 room. My vote would be 2 12s. I like 15s. But having 2 12s in that small of a room, I think you're going to get pretty good pressurization. And then you're going to also add better seat to seat if you got more than one.
You're going to lose out on the ultra low, though.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
My boat is always buy
15,
the
get a
biggest
15
sub you can get now and then buy another one later.
Yeah. I always hate those questions, though, because usually it's a bigger one or 2 smaller ones.
And I'm just nagging people on to spend more money.
So the other thought of that too, though, think about this. He's got a 10 by 12 foot room. If it's 10 foot wide, I mean, definitely 2 15s are going to take up more real estate than, it's a single versus 2 12. So it actually, a 15 would fit easier than 2. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's a hard one.
I'll say throw the 15 near field. And so I don't know. These questions it's like there's so many different possibilities you could do.
So here's one thing that I do know in my own setup. I went from 10 to 15 to 18, and I've never gone backwards.
No, you won't go backwards.
So I think if you try 15 in your room, you'll be like, absolutely, this is an overkill. I love it. So there is that. So, but I think you can definitely get a great home theater experience with 2 12s. But I like 15s, that's for sure, because I never went back. And I have reviewed 1 12-inch in my room, and it was okay. It was nice, but go big or go home. Oro Astro says, for 2 HS24s placed between the LCRs behind an AT screen, which is an acoustic transparent screen, would you go with sealed or vented? Any harm with driver tight to floor? What does that mean?
24s, I'd probably go sealed.
Tight to floor.
Maybe screw down to the floor or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Or if the driver's all the way down at floor level.
Oh,
okay.
No, you're fine. I do 24s with sealed.
Yep.
You have enough output.
And they're so big.
Yeah.
Dude,
I think
24s is insane.
If you did a ported cabinet for 24s, the cabinet would be enormous.
It's got to be 20 cubes or bigger.
Yeah.
Really. Maybe 16, but I think 20 is about what Nick suggests for his.
You're going to want sealed at that size.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah. I know with me, I always liked ported until I got up to 18s. And then when you get multiple 18s, or in this case, 24s, you don't have any port chuffing. You've got plenty of a low end extension. And because of the surface area, you got plenty of displacement. So I'm a fan of the sealed as well.
I think I would do sealed with anything but the 4000 ULFs. Because the 4000s or any like GSG's new sub or what's SI's doing, they're able to dig so low, they effectively act as sealed subs down to their port tune frequency, and then they need that extra output. Like the ULFs, I'm doing 110 dB at 10 hertz. I mean,
that's insane.
Room gain, I'm probably well past that. So I wouldn't do normal traditional ported sub, I'd go sealed if I didn't have that.
And you got to think too, it's smaller and lighter to be able just to transport in there.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but then you're not a real man.
That is true. I've heard that.
When your subs aren't the size of refrigerators, right? You're lacking.
Wow. Guys, I don't feel that about you. If you got smaller subs, I think it's totally cool.
No.
Talking to my audience here, you know. Don't want to offend them. All right, Danny says, inspired by Ryan's Martin Logan setup, would you think that Magnapan full theater will sound good? Weird question.
I think that'd be cool. As long as you had subs and the crossover integration was good. The only issue I have with Magnapans is they're not able to go as low, right? Because they don't have that traditional driver crossover that Martin Logan's electrostatics do. So you may run into some issues with that. One of the the only issues I have with Martin Logan's in a home theater is that their crossover point between the electrostatic panel and the traditional driver gets a little wonky. I can't hear it, but it's one of the only things you can see on frequency response.
Yeah.
Magnapans, since you don't have that, I don't know how far down they can go. Maybe if you did like multiple crossovers with like you're using the Magnapan as your upper end down to like 200 hertz, and then you had a mid-bass crossover, and then for mid-bass drivers, then you had another one in your processor that was sending like the low frequency or the ULF down to something else. That's possible.
Right. Last question of the night. So, true story before I read this. I'm not going to pronounce your name, and here's why. I made a video and I said your name, and YouTube demonetized that video. I'm like, are you kidding me? It was hilarious. I thought it was pretty funny. So, Bag 16 says, hi, youth man and all. Is the Epson 5050 UB, is that a best value projector for about $2,000? I love the content. Appreciate the questions. Hey, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. I think that Epson has some of the best bang for buck. We've always been bragging on the 5040, 5050. Those are great, great values. I think they produce a really great image, especially if you don't have, you know, the ability to go up to, you know, those $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 projectors, which, you know, the higher up you go, the bigger that law of diminishing return is. I think the Epson 5050, Epson 5040 still rocks. And the good thing is you can get those on the used market super, super cheap. So I'm a fan, man. I love it. Yep.
Still the king.
Yeah.
That, or if you have a small enough screen like an RS 400, 500, 420, 520, any of that stuff. But the Epsons just put out substantially more light.
Yeah. For sure. Well, man, I hope you guys are excited about Mwave. I know we've talked a lot about that, and we are pumped up. We've got lots of new stuff that's coming this year. We've got a better venue, more experiences. We're bringing on Kyle, the big guns, so me and Ryan can sit back and just have a Coke while
do nothing,
moving all the heavy stuff.
We'll
so that's exciting. But Kyle's going to be there. He's going to be bringing some of the big boys from GSG as well as Stereo Integrity. So we're super pumped about that. And so all the details are on the website. We still have general admission tickets available at MidwestAVExperience.com. We'd love to have you join us, man. Kyle, it's been a blast, dude. You have been one of my OG subscribers probably for at least 4 to 5 years.
It's been a while
on the channel. And so he and I have been good friends. We talk every week, if not sometimes every day. Yeah. So appreciate your friendship.
I appreciate you guys inviting me on. And like I said, I'm excited about Mwave and kind of getting back into the swing of things with both YouTube and just kind of exploring more in home theater. So I appreciate you getting me on here and talking with you guys and getting to talk with your audience. So it's been fun. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
I'm just glad you got some time off work that you weren't worried about coming this year. You were able to make it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is going to be perfect. I got nothing going on that entire week. So I'm planning on helping you guys out and maybe even bring some people to help us out, get all set up a couple days before. So we'll see.
Absolutely. So head over to Life of Bliss, subscribe, show him some love. Kyle's been an awesome guest. He's got some great content, especially if you love DIY. He's got some super cool stuff that he's shared on his channel. A lot of stuff coming in the future. So let's get into 50,000, man. You're almost there.
Almost.
Love it,
Getting
dude.
Close.
So cool. Well, guys, I hope you all have an incredible week. Hopefully these questions and answer have been beneficial to you wherever you're at in your home theater journey, whether you're just a novice, whether you're kind of in the middle, or you're just wanting to build a bigger and better home theater and just have some questions. So we love answering those. And so with that, man, I hope y'all guys have a great week. Kyle, pleasure. Ryan, as always. Jonathan, glad to have him as well. We will catch you in the next live stream next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Later.
Have a good one.
See ya.